You are now joining the meeting. When you can look up the roster, and it has their email address on there. If you,
Hi, this is Alan Bell checking in.
Hi, Mr. Bell. We'll start shortly here. We're waiting for a few more people.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
sometimes the tax on those, because those are the ones that are cross-listed, right? With the mapping of type. So they'll actually go into another people. So it'll look like it's not full, and it's at 10, but then I have 14 in its kind of code section.
Yeah, even like this semester, Brad, if you didn't, and we all been saying, hey, we have this concept that we're being more movement and just rated about, and they were like,
John Bennett.
and then I realized that there was another section that had been canceled.
Hey, back.
So
Thanks.
some people actually still have the old
Yeah.
plan, but they hadn't seen that there was a new one. So I didn't reach out to them, and I don't know.
It did make it, it went over the.
It didn't. Okay, so that information for that was very.
Morning.
Hi, everybody. This is Chris Register. I think everybody should be on a Zoom meeting. A link should have been sent out for this. And I believe Sarah Aguirre is typing that right now.
Hey, Rachel, can I get a roll call, please?
Heather Robinson,
I'm here.
Tommy Taylor,
Here.
Alan Bell,
I'm here.
John Bennett,
Present.
Jean Bishop,
I am here. Thank you.
Matt Brewster, Lisa Brownfield, Nancy Campbell. Here. Vicky De La Reyes,
Sorry.
I'm here.
John Deemer,
Here.
Gary Kellogg,
Here.
Michael Kelly, Craig LaFever,
Here.
Shauna Marshall. Here. Regina Martinez. Here. Dana Miner. Here. Mark Ullman,
Here.
Davy Spurlock. Tammy Ursenbach. Here. Lisa Van Ella. Here. And Amy West. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the first item of the agenda, and that's approval of October 27, 2022 meeting minutes. Those were included in your backup that was sent over to you. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments about those we need to address at this time?
Chair, motion? Can we do that now?
Yes, yes.
I motion to approve the minutes as
Thank you, Nancy.
presented.
Thank you, Nancy. Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you, Deemer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Seats.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We're going to move on to item number 2. We're going to review Mojave La Paz Workforce Development Board attendance, resignation, request for nominations to join the WDB, new renewal appointments by the Board of Supervisors, and new appointment, including Larry Lord, Maria Hadnot, Zephyr Jean. Thank you. And Kathleen Ocampo, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll start with resignations. We have Gary Kellogg, who's been a longstanding member of the Economic Development Team for the City of Kingman. Mr. Kellogg reached out and let me know that his last day with the city will be the 3rd, and that he'll be recommending Bennett Bradley to take his place. So we'll facilitate that for our next meeting as resignations. Mr. Kellogg, you're on the call. Is there anything you'd like to say? But before that, I would just also thank you for your service.
It's been my pleasure. So Bennett will do a good job. He's ready. So it's just time. So this will be my 3rd retirement. So I got to stop sometime. So
Enjoy it.
thank you.
The next, in regards to appointments, new appointments, Madam Chair, we met with Larry Lord from Larry from Portside. He has multiple businesses. He also has a foundation like the Mike Rowe Foundation, who works with youths and training them and having those opportunities. He'll bring a great deal of business expertise to the board. So we would need a 2-year motion for that as well, Madam
Can you
Chair.
all hear me?
So we can do them one at a time.
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to call for a motion for Larry Lord for a 2-year term on the Workforce Development Board.
So moved.
Second, this is Lisa.
Did you get both of those, Rachel?
I didn't get the first.
Okay, I'm sorry, who was first?
Gary.
Gary, thank you, Gary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Director?
Madam Chair, the next we had, at our last meeting, Olin Wafer resigned from Title IV representative. In his place, we will have Maria Hadnot, and she has a master's in social service, and she was recommended by Title IV for that position.
Okay, can I get a motion? And this will be until December 2025?
Right, because it was a resignation, it'll be for the rest of Olin's term.
Perfect, perfect. Can I get a motion for Maria Hadnot?
My motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Beamer. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries for Maria. Director?
Madam Chair, we have Zafar Jansir from and he's going to be joining us to represent Economic Development Corporation for La Paz. He is also the CEO of the La Paz Hospital as well. Vast experience. He not only has a pharmacist degree, doctorate, I should say, he's also has an MBA, so has a great deal of wealth and sits on a couple other boards in La Paz. So he'll be a great addition to the team.
Perfect, welcome. Can I get a motion, please, for Mr. Say it for me.
Zafar
Zafar
Gench.
Gench. Okay,
Sorry about that.
All good.
This is Tommy, so moved.
thank you. Can I get a second?
Markle,
Make the second, Regina Martinez.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, motion carries. Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this next appointment will be, give a little background on it. So Title II for Mojave La Paz. We didn't have one for the past at least 2.5 years. We didn't have a provider. I reached out to the state because part of the Title II, we had 2 applicants come forward. That was MCC as well as La Paz. There was a letter of recommendation from Cheryl Hart, which is was over Title II. The way this works is that, and we have, just so everybody's aware, because there's new members here, Craig Lefevre has been serving as our Title II representative, but doing virtual. Really, the recommendation from Cheryl Hart was that it really should be a local provider for Title II services. She made 2 recommendations. The first one was Dennis LaForce from MCC, and then we had Kathy O'Campbell, who we worked with from Arizona Western College for the Quest grant. With that being said, at this time, what we'll do is we'll appoint, or the board will make a motion for Kathy O'Campbell to come on as a Title II representative. Once she's through the process, we will then have Craig Lefevre resign from the Title II as the board. Moving forward, whoever the board decides to represent will represent Title II. So that person, if it is Kathy O'Campbell, she will coordinate with Craig Lefevre, who will be doing virtual services still for the counties. He just won't be, it'll be a virtual and he won't be on the board. And then somebody from MCC, when that's identified as well, will be on the board, but won't be on the board. There'll be one board member, and that will be, who's been put forward by Cheryl Hart, Kathy O'Campbell. Questions?
I don't have any questions. Anybody have any questions for Director Smith? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to vote Kathleen O'Campbell for Title II representative for the 2-year term for the Workforce Development Board.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Madam Chair. If it's okay, I would ask that if there are any new board members that have been recently voted upon, if they'd like to just introduce themselves. I know we have a couple of them here as well. I believe we have someone online. If you want to give them that opportunity.
Okay, all right. So at this time, we'll go ahead and give the opportunity to the new board members who have already been voted in to maybe introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do. You want to start that, Nancy?
I would love to. I'm Nancy Campbell, Lake Havasu City Councilwoman as well. Own many businesses in the past and still currently, from construction to design, floral bridal basket, cigar bars. Yeah, been doing a lot in my life. And through an interesting journey, I became very ill and I ended up selling off a lot of businesses. And I tell you this because through the grace of God, I'm here today. And this mind cannot just sit at home. So now I get to volunteer at a different level and do things differently. And hopefully I can give some expertise back to you and move your board forward.
Thank you. Gosh, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for being here. And I'm not sure who else besides you. Who I'm afraid to say his name.
Yeah, my name's Zafar Gench. And I think Mr. Smith did a good introduction on me. I'm the CEO over at La Paz Regional Hospital. Been there since 2014. My credentials, I do have a doctorate and also a Master of Business Administration from GCU. More recently, I was elected to be the chairman of the La Paz Economic Development Corporation, and really excited to be part of this and trying to move forward. So appreciate being nominated and looking forward to working with everybody.
Well, we
Thank
appreciate you being here. That's quite a drive for you this morning. So thank you for attending in person. I really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And Kathy Ocampo.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kathy Ocampo. I am currently serving as the Associate Dean for La Paz County Services, as well as supporting in a executive team leader role for some services based out of Yuma as well. So I am joining from the Yuma campus this morning. Been with the college, I'm in my 16th year, and I'm happy to continue to support in this capacity as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on board. We really appreciate you and your insight. And how's the weather in Yuma?
It's sunny right now, but it was cold. My toes were frozen this morning, so.
Okay. Well, welcome. Really, really glad you're part of the board now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Larry Lord?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
You can.
Okay, Larry Lord, I'm a Quartzsite resident. Been here about 3 years, moved in from California, have a long time business out there that I've owned since, we've been in business 47 years out there, setting up contractor trucks and truck equipment. Then moved down here to Quartzsite. I now own in-store storage here in Quartzsite. And we've been also very active with the Job Skills program, Job Skills training program through my Larry Lord Foundation. And we also promote a lot of the town events here with the Quartzsite Camel Corps. We just got through our Camelpalooza here in town last weekend, and now on February 24th and 25th, if anybody's interested, we do have a balloon glow coming back to Quartzsite. So my focus is the Job Skills Training Program, but I do still have current businesses in California and Quartzsite. I appreciate the nomination of this. I'm hoping that I can live up to the expectations. I've never been on something like this, but I'll do my best to do what I can.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And Maria Hadnot is our last one. She is not on with us today. I see her online. Okay. Any questions or comments or anything concerns? All right, now we'll move on to item 3, Mojave La Paz Housing Study, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have with us today Todd Chase, Tim Woods, and Stephen Faust. So they're going to go ahead and just touch base. They have 4 slides, and if you want, just come up and say a few words, Todd.
Great. Well, thank you for having us here today. My name is Todd Chase. I'm an economist and principal owner of FCS Group. And we have offices in Colorado, Oregon, California, and Washington. And we do work throughout several states as well as Canada. A lot of work is focused on housing these days. We do a lot of work for cities, counties, and developers. And we help them prepare strategies as well as funding techniques and help them adopt local funding techniques to build infrastructure to support housing in their communities. Today we're going to talk a little about this study in Mojave County. With me is Steve Faust. He's with 3J Consulting. His role on this project, they're a civil engineering firm, land use planning firm, and public outreach firm. So they're going to be doing a community survey for the entire community connected to the Mojave County website. So we'll get a lot of, hopefully hundreds of input responses on that survey over the next few months. Tim Wood is a economist analyst with us. He's assisting me on this project as a deputy PM. So next slide, please. Talk a little bit about this. Oh, you can go ahead and advance that all the way. There we go. So while we work around the country, every local jurisdiction is unique in the challenges they're facing in terms of trying to do all they can to make it easier to build housing in their communities. And there's passive roles cities and counties can take, and there's more supportive and active roles they can take in what they can do to make it easier to build in their communities. So through this project, we're basically going to, you can go ahead and advance a little bit more. We're going to look at the cost of housing and how attainable it is at different income levels in the community, and look at the current supply in terms of rental and for sale housing in the community, and begin to create some production strategies that the county commissioners can consider as a result of this project. Let's see, some of those considerations could be with respect to zoning and code amendments. Some can be with respect to infrastructure investments and funding for infrastructure in strategic locations throughout the county. We will also, as part of this process, be looking at opportunity sites for low-income tax credit investments in the future. There's a number of criteria we have to explore to identify sites that could be appropriate for tax credit investments in the county. So through this process, we're going to have an exhaustive GIS analysis that Steve and his firm is working on, which we'll have ready probably next time we come, which will probably be in March. We're going to be getting community input to help us identify what are the perceived issues and barriers to housing throughout the county, different locations. And a lot of that, I'm sure, will be focused on workforce housing, housing that's affordable to workers at different income levels. And that's going to be a real key focus. Next slide, please. It's kind of an exciting time to do this in Arizona. The state's just released a draft housing affordability study with some recommendations statewide, and they have Mojave County in kind of the northwest quadrant of the county. Mojave County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state, and so it's an exciting time to do this project. What we find is that by having a housing action plan that's up to date, it'll help the county leverage grants that might be available from the federal government to support new housing initiatives just by having a plan. The plan will contain, as I mentioned, this GIS layer analysis of mapping, which will be really useful for both staff and developers and property owners in terms of just trying to find opportunities to invest or to create housing in their communities. So we'll have a great list. I've never seen so much vacant opportunity sites in my life, and I've been doing this for 40 years almost. So it's kind of cool to see it all on the map. And today and tomorrow and yesterday, we've been looking at these sites and kind of driving by and trying to get names and numbers of people we can contact that are builders or developers or key property owners or employers to get feedback on what could be done to basically make it to lower the cost, basically, of delivering housing in their communities. This input through this housing plan should encourage housing development that meets all housing needs at different levels, low income, medium income, and upper income levels. And it can feed into comprehensive plan updates down the road should the county choose to, leverage some of the actions and objectives that we have in terms of recommendations. And as I mentioned, some of the implementation strategies, usually that's a follow-up phase, but it could include some building code or zoning code amendments, zoning map changes and that type of thing, as well as fee structures and different ways to permit and approve land use approvals. Next slide, please. you can see here, this is a really aggressive schedule. We started in the fall and we hope to be finished by June. So we're in the first couple tasks where we're doing land use and housing needs assessment. Some of that is an economic overview as well. And that's going to be coupled with a housing market and gap analysis and the buildable land inventory. All that work is underway. We hope to begin to wrap up those findings between now and February, middle of February. And then we'll come back to the community in March, early April, and begin to talk about some of the issues and opportunities that we've identified and keep rolling from there. So we have a good taskmaster there with Michael, so we're really looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and working with everybody. And we're going to leave my contact information on the next slide. So you can either email Michael or you can email us. Michael has my card as well. If you want to be interviewed or if you have just a few minutes to add your perspectives, we'd love to hear from you directly. We have, much time between now and June, so we can have those conversations. But at any rate, we're really happy to be part of this project. Thank you for having us here today.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we know you have an exhaustive agenda.
Hey, you may have any questions for Mr. Chase about this?
Yeah, there's a lot. We look forward to hearing from you down the road.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 4, discussion review the Barriers, Transportation, and Business Services Committees. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've asked the board members to submit a report as well. But the board members that we have present, I would be interested in hearing their perspectives. Madam Chair, I would just share that over the course of the past year, we've had limited action items coming out of the reports or the committees, the different committees, and concerns and ideas that were shared, especially from Tammy Ersenbach, who's done a lot with barriers and HR to help workers. I would say at this time we should review all these committees and decide the fate of, do we keep the committees? Do we move forward with the committees? Or is there another way to structure it? Madam Chair, I would also just recommend with that is that if we decide to move forward with the committee, that we have clear guidance to the committees of what the expectations are, so that as they work through their committees and identify issues, there's clear direction for the committees.
Okay.
So I would say at this time, if we want to start with Tammy Ersenbach. Tammy, if you wouldn't mind, just giving a perspective of what you've been doing over the course of the past year and where things are at.
Hey, we've actually been busy. We started this group, a year and a half ago, about. And we started with about 40, it depends, 30 to 50 people showing up for the meetings. Started out really good with a couple workshops that were very positive, which I got excited because after the workshops, they went back and implemented a lot of things internally within their companies, and there were several that did. It wasn't just one or two, and the county being one of those. We had a couple of HR people from the county that came down, and the whole focus at that point was on workforce and recruitment and retention. And that being at that time, especially a year and a half ago, being one of the main challenges that we were working through as a county as a whole, or two counties as a whole. So in the process, we brought in SHRM, and we've tried to kind of figure out how to nurture that relationship so that we're not taking that burden on all ourselves and having to find speakers and provide all of the content, because my department isn't workforce. And so we tried to work with the chambers and have the chambers come on board and help support that. And they haven't really known what their role would be in this as well. So it would be we have monthly meetings. We are supporting the needs of the people within the area, their barriers. Our next meeting is going to be on EEOC. because that was the one thing that somebody came up and said, we really need to learn a little bit more on. We don't mind doing the work, but we feel like we're going kind of in the wrong direction. And I'd rather see on this committee, if we keep it, somebody from each community that is within the business environment that understands and that will help pull people in from their community. We've had some meeting as low as 4 or 5 people. Excuse me, our last one we had, I think 12 or 13 on. We've tried doing virtual, we've tried doing only in person. The ones in person sometimes actually bring in more people, but then we're traveling around and then we're losing some of them, because if you're in up north, if you're in even places like Topak, it's harder to come to these meetings, and travel around the county is easy. So we're trying to figure out what is best to help support these businesses. But we have been busy the whole time, very, very busy. We put on a conference just over a year ago, and that was very successful. But we just need some direction in what you want us to do.
Thank you, Tammy. Mr. Kellogg, if you could give us an update on transportation, please.
Okay. One of the things that I did find out is that, and I think maybe Tammy can fill in on this, is that there is now a countywide transportation study underway. Is that true, Tammy?
I have not heard that.
Okay. Well, I had heard that. My focus for you guys, unfortunately, hasn't been countywide. It's really been at the airport industrial park. And one of the things we just completed was a retention expansion survey. And one of the key items that came out of there was transportation to and from the city of Kingman and the surrounding area to the business park. And so we are now starting on, we got 130 some odd responses from 4 companies on a survey that was done, saying that was about 50-50 that they would like to see some sort of public transit system to and from the industrial park. There is none at this point. So we are now going back. We're just in the second process now of talking to all the companies. We interviewed about 25 on the retention expansion survey, from small to very large. And what we're coming up with there, the questions we'll be asking them is, what is your shift time scheduling? Are you flexible with your shifts? And would you be open to a pilot? And if it's tough for us to reach the financial goal to support this, would you be willing to fund it? So we're really focusing on that right now. So I would say, if as a suggestion, is that if this is probably better served on a countywide basis, or maybe a representative that can do the whole county thing, as opposed to, say, an individual like myself, which was really kind of mainly focused on our industrial park. So.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Kirk Lacey from MCC is not here. Kirk did share a brief report of what he had ongoing for activities. Basically, MCC has done a few listening, I'm not for sure the exact amount of listening sessions they've done with businesses, but then they've also done some corporate training things that have come out of those listening sessions for the business committee, but no activities outside of that were reported for the business committee. So Madam Chair, I think you've heard from the different members, and really, I just think as a board, either we support it or we don't. That you can hear from the members that all the members that have spoken, and even with MCC, is that having the multiple boards, they really don't have the support to move any of the key items forward. And I'll conclude with that.
Okay, so do we have any comments or suggestions on if we should keep these boards, if they're of value, should we move forward? Any of the board members have any discussion they'd like to create?
So if that's okay, Madam Chair, I would like to say that the group that we have does not want to end. So if we end it on this board, we're going to still have to continue that going. But I wouldn't mind combining all 3 and making one committee and having a chair over one committee. But like I said before, having somebody from each community on that committee, so it's not just one department or one person trying to do all the work. And when we a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think it was, the chambers were on this committee and were board members, and we had to change things around and they had to step down, and they've had their feelings hurt a little bit, and so asking them to be on this committee before we thought was going to help soften that, and it hasn't. So I think we need to just have business owners rather than the chambers. That's my suggestion.
Okay, so you're suggesting transportation program barriers and the business services be one?
Correct.
Okay, and we saw these services too, with Amy.
That's a different.
Okay, so we're not gonna worry about that one, okay. All right, so, I mean, that sounds like a great idea. To me, it seems like it'd be stronger. And if your committee feels that strong about it, I think we need to move forward and keep that going. I mean, you're gonna keep it going anyway. The board can only, grow from that, all that information and do better. So absolutely. So we need to go action on that. So
we would.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to entertain a motion to put first of all, the Transportation Program Barriers and Business Services Committee as one, correct? Going forward. Can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Jean Bishop, second.
Thank you, Jean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
We'll do the elections to that next.
Okay, all right, so just move on to the next one. Right, okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the item 5, election of Workforce Development Board and Committee positions for the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Director.
Madam Chair, for this particular item, the chair and the vice chair need to be business owners for these positions. I will also add that with COVID, there was a delay in our elections of officers. They're supposed to be for 2 years. So really the elections are supposed to begin June. We went the full 2 years with these terms, but now moving forward, the board's at a point where they need to decide, do they want to make the terms moving forward just till June, or should we keep it a two-year term? And then what will be nice about that is when we update any of our documents to the state or anywhere else, it will coincide with the Board of Supervisors. So we will know who the chair of the Board of Supervisors is, as well as the chair for us. And so when we do our forms, we don't have to continuously redo forms. The only drawback to that is that, the fiscal year ends June 30th. And I believe that's why they said for the first meeting to be done for elections. If we do this, then we will update our bylaws to reflect that. But those are the two items that we would need to act upon: voting for the officers and then the terms and when those will take place at end.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, is there any questions or comments concerned about keeping it in January, and then from moving forward from here on, we'll have it be 2-year terms every 2 years in January. So first, I'd like to get a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. This is a twofold discussion, because now we need to move forward with the positions, and we need to vote in for the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary
Yes,
as well?
that's correct.
Okay,
The secretary can be any board member.
great. And we don't have anybody on that right now?
We're going to pull them up, but no, we
Perfect.
don't.
Go ahead,
Only
George.
wait for- We have them up there on the board now. So who the chairs are. So at this time, the way we're going to set this up, Madam Chair, if this works for the board, is that we will ask for nominations. And then after that, we will do a vote, discussion if that person would like to take that position, and then take a vote from there. Rachel, you can also do an online chat as well.
I have the chat open. If they want to put their nomination in the chat, I will announce it.
Thank you, Rachel.
So at this point, everybody has the opportunity to go in and do that. And what about the people in the room?
The people in the room will vote. So once we have the person that we want to put forward, we'll take a roll of that, and then we'll go from there. So we would start with the chair and then go from there, ask for nominations.
Okay, so the first thing we need is everybody to nominate a chair for this, for the 2-year term for the Workforce Development Board.
I'll nominate Ken again if you want to. I don't have to be willing to do it again in 2 years, but
Yeah.
how long have you been doing it? Didn't you just start?
Yeah, because I had to finish out Joe's term.
Oh, okay, I'm like.
You're like, it's been 2 years, Amy.
Something happened there, I missed something.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I had to finish out Joe's term first. Now it's
Got it,
it's
yeah,
out there
yeah.
now. Yeah. Okay. Do we have anything coming in?
Nothing.
So the question is, do you want to do it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is that a motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Yes.
Okay.
Then we'll do roll call. First, you got a first and a second.
Okay.
Do a roll call.
All right, any opposed? Well, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Now roll call for,
No, now we'll just move the vice chair.
okay, perfect. I'll move on to vice chair. And looks like we have Tommy Taylor up there for the nominations.
Okay. Congratulations to Kendra.
I'll second that nomination.
Did we get a first?
I think
Dana
down
Meyer.
at Tommy Taylor down there.
Okay, perfect. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And now moving on to the secretary, which is vacant.
Correct. So, Madam Chair, this can be any board member who would like to step forward at this time and serve the full Workforce Development Board.
Like maybe,
Typically, this position, Madam Chair, has been a core partner that have local involvement.
I'd like to nominate John Deemer, please. He doesn't have enough to do in his daily day, so I'd like to nominate John Deemer. He's our Title III partner and works for the DES State of Arizona.
I was only stretching. You're already on the board, you might as well.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
You okay with this, John?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Any opposed? Whoops, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, John, appreciate it. All right, that's all we have to do there, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to the next item. Recommend to Mojave County Board of.
I'm sorry, 1 second, Madam Chair. So we have to do all of the committees now for this. So the executive committee would be the same 3 people that we have here, but now we need to have 2 board members, and they can be any board members for the other 2 positions for the executive committee. I will also say, Madam Chair, and to the board, this committee is extremely important. This committee, when the full board can't meet on a regular basis, the executive committee meets, makes decisions on behalf of the board, and then moves it forward so that we can continue with business. So I would strongly ask people consider that, and when you consider that and you commit to this executive committee position, know that there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, Madam Chair, and that we really need 2 people that really want to be a part of this. I also would recommend to Madam Chair, the new board members, this is a great way to really dive in and take that next step. So if you've either a new member or you haven't been on a committee yet, but have been a board member, this is a great opportunity to work. You have a lot of experience with current board members that are on that committee at this time.
Okay, so we need 2 members. I know from experience, a couple of times we've come very close. The executive committee is very, very important. And a couple of times we've come very close to not having a quorum. And this is really important to be part of this committee because it's always held about 2 weeks before the board meetings. And we vote on a whole bunch of variety of things, including the agenda for the board meeting. So does anybody want to come forward and say, I'll be on the executive?
Hi, this is Kathy Ocampo. I'm happy.
I think she said she's thrilled.
Yo, so you want to be on, Kathy? Thank you. All right. Can I get a motion to vote Kathy on?
Absolutely.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Amy. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it so much. Can I get somebody else, please? One more volunteer.
It's Mark Olman. I'd like to become a member of the committee.
Oh, Mark
Olman.
Oleman. Hi, Mark. Thank you very much. All right,
Yes.
can I get a motion?
I motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. And
Thank
with
you.
that- All right. Can
So then we go to the standing committee?
Standing.
I'm sorry,
It's
the
okay.
performance
Review Committee. Okay, go ahead, Director.
So the Performance Review Committee, to give people more understanding of what this committee does, this committee actually reviews what Arizona at Work does and then makes recommendations to the executive board, which the executive board then makes to our full workforce development board. And this is how we keep the firewalls from a board member directing staff of Arizona at Work to do certain things. So once again, this is another way to really have oversight and provide some guidance as well that moves the program forward. That's why it's the Performance Review Committee. In the Performance Review Committee, we go over budgets, we go over enrollments, where the programs are, anything that may be adversely affecting the performance of Arizona at Work, and also the positives. So it's just not that. In this as well, the one-stop operator will attend this and give overview of the whole Arizona at Work. So when we think of Arizona at Work, we have four partners. For the new board members, we have Title 1B, we have our Title 2, which I spoke briefly about today. We have Title 3 and Title 4. Title 3 is Employment Services, which Mr. Deemer represents. And then we have Title 4, which will be the one that Olin Wafer resigned from. And we have Maria Hannah, who's going to be a part of that. So that really gives you the understanding of the four partners as well for the board. So the one stop would come to this meeting as well as and present here. So these are really key positions. Mr. Taylor's been the chairman of this. It doesn't have to be anybody from the executive or the chair positions. Typically, they have been on this just because they have a vested interest. And I'll conclude with that, Madam Chair.
Okay, so this particular committee is open to anybody that wants to
Yes.
be a part of it?
Yes.
Okay, and so at this point, I would like to see if anybody would volunteer to be on the Performance Review Committee, be part of this. This is really an important committee because you do get a good grasp of what's going on, how the money's being spent. And then, of course, you get the one-stop operators report right up front. So do I have anybody who would like to also be part of that committee? Please?
You're not taking the ones that are on there.
No.
They have to be.
Oh, no, you don't get off that.
No. I didn't know if I had to put it in again.
No.
I'm definitely staying on that one.
Anybody on phone, Zoom, want to be part of that committee?
Madam Chair, you also, as the chair, can appoint people to be on this committee that are board members. So you do have that ability to appoint, like to appoint different people that you feel should be on this board.
You, no.
I already go to the meetings.
Yeah, I don't really like to do that.
Right. But
Okay.
I would strongly encourage at least, stepping forward, taking our chair, Madam Chair yourself, Tommy Taylor, and John Deemer, that are part of the executive, and at least two other people stepping forward. Obviously, somebody could recuse themselves, but this is a very important committee, just as much as the executive. This is where you delve down into the information and really look at how are they performing, right? So as a board, this is important.
I'll do it.
Yay. Was it the stare down that got you?
No. And I think we should have someone from La Paz County, whether it be the college or someone else step up so that we're representing everyone.
Sure. Shauna, would you like to be a part of that committee? Were you thinking about it? Yeah. Yes?
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Okay. First, this committee has been, what, like 2 years? This committee's been in more?
Probably have 4.
4 wow, 4 years. Where have I been? Same with Amy. I don't know what day it is. Okay, so
Your work.
I know being part of this for 4 years, it's really, really, really important. You do learn a lot of things. So that being said, we have 2 volunteers. We have Nancy Campbell. Can I please get a motion to put her on that performance review committee?
A motion.
Lisa Vanella, so moved. Second.
Thanks, Lisa.
All in favor, say aye quickly.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion carries for Nancy, and also, I'm gonna mess up her name, Chana Marshall, right? Yes, I get a motion to put Chana also on performance review committee? Motion?
So
Thank you, Tammy. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Nancy and Chana. I appreciate it.
Not have yourself, Madam Chair, yourself, Tommy Taylor and John Deemer is what I suggested, but Madam Chair, that would have to be voted upon, but you can.
To stay
like I said,
on?
You can appoint, yes.
Okay, all right. So I appoint myself to stay on.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion from the board?
And then we need, we need
Okay.
the motion
All
for
right, so I
Tommy
need
and
a-
John as well.
Perfect. I need a motion for Tommy to stay on performance review committee.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Mark Olman.
Get that, Rachel? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries to keep Tommy on, and also need a motion to keep John Deemer on performance review committee. On, motion, please.
So moved.
Thank
Motion
you.
by
Can I
Mark
get a-
Olman.
So you got a first and a second there, Rachel? Perfect, perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried to keep John on as well. We're good?
And then we go to youth.
Okay, so now we need the youth committee,
The
youth
youth.
program standing committee.
So on this, Madam Chair, we've had Amy West as the the Madam Chair for this person as well, for this committee. It really would be beneficial probably for Amy to continue this. I don't really have a way to recommend anybody else with the experience from the schools that are currently on board.
She's all we got, we'll take her.
I don't know if that's a glowing recommendation or not.
If Amy West doesn't continue to provide the leadership that she has over the course of the years, and we will be in
Dire Straits?
yes. Madam Chair.
So moved.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Just jump right in and take my place, huh? Okay, Amy, you're still good with that?
Well, I was gonna say I'd be happy to turn it over to somebody else if you'd like, but yeah, I'll do it.
And then, Madam Chair, we should also reappoint all of the people that are listed on the standing committee as well.
Okay, can we do that with one?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we should do 2 different motions.
Do you want someone else from the board on it? Since most everybody is from the schools, does that matter?
It's really your discretion, as the chair of that committee. But if there's something else that we feel would increase this standing committee, you could make that recommendation to the board.
Okay, so we can just do one motion, right?
So what is the motion that needs to be placed?
So the motion that would need to be placed, Madam Chair, would be the people that are listed there as well. We also have Kathy O'Campbell, who's will be a newly appointed board member, or is a newly appointed board member, excuse me, plus the people that are remaining on the list to be appointed to the standing committee.
Okay, can we get a motion for that?
Mark Olman, that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to keep the same members of the standing committee members on the board going forward.
And then the last one we'll have to review is the committee that Tammy Ursenbach graciously stepped forward for, which was the barriers, transportation, and business services.
So we already voted on that.
So we voted to keep the committee, but we didn't vote to keep Tammy as the chair for that committee.
Oh, perfect.
At least that's my understanding.
Okay, yes, you're still good with that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we did vote on putting the three committees together, transportation, program barriers, and business services. Now I need a motion to keep Tammy as the chair for that committee.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a
Second,
second?
Holman, second.
Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to keep Tammy on the chair. Thank you, Tammy, for
Now,
doing
do we
that.
want to appoint people later to be on that committee or do it today
You can do that
or later?
and then bring it to the board next time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes? Okay. we can move on. Okay, so now we're moving on to item 6. Recommend to Mojave County Board of Supervisors to award the one-stop operator contract to the person that we've not been selected yet based upon the RFP review of Director Smith, myself, and Tommy Taylor. Director.
Madam Chair, so to the board, so that they're aware, we had 4 candidates that came forward, very qualified candidates. We're in the review process. The recommendation for this, Madam Chair, would be that even though the executive committee has changed, to keep yourself, myself, and Tommy Taylor on this committee to finish the RFP process. And then on behalf of that, move that to the executive for a recommendation. After the executive committee reviews it, we will present that to the Board of Supervisors. But then that way, at least we've had the process placed forward to give us the authority to move that.
Again, it's a twofold. The first one would be, actually, I need a motion to keep, the executive committee has voted in that the people that are doing the recommendation based on the RFP review is myself, the chair, Director Smith, and Tommy Taylor, the vice chair. So I need a motion from the board to move forward with that.
Lisa Vanella, so moved.
Thank you, Lisa. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Second part of this motion would be that once the decision is made, to move it on
To the executive.
to the executive board for the final. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Holman, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All we needed for that? Perfect. Going on to item 7, review and accept updates to the Mojave La Paz MOU IFA Director Smith.
Madam Chair, thank you. So the IFA, we brought to the board several meetings ago. We worked with the state. There was a lot of back and forth in regards to some verbiage, like that they would like to see just in regards to verbiage, like for the core partners, just certain little bits and pieces of the verbiage that the state wanted updated. They also wanted, per their guidance, they also wanted B3 through B5 updated. That's, when you think of that, what that was is instead of taking the whole building as a comprehensive center and then using that for the rate of charge, it's only the area that the one-stop center encompasses. So we redid that. We sent that over to the state. The state approved it. We received all the signatures. And that's where we're currently at. The thing with this also, Madam Chair, this will be twofold, is that the IFA goes to June 30th. I tried to, through meetings with the state, coordinate an opportunity so that we could take this IFA and currently roll it over for the board to vote upon. They really wanted to come back with the IFA. There's some things in there that we need to look at as a board, which we will do. But it really goes back to the one-stop operator and shared cost. And right now, we didn't have there was no, from what I could gather, there was no methodology of how it was cost allocated between the partners of who used the one-stop and what that looked like price-wise. So in the next item that we'll be discussing, there'll be a part of that, but just to be aware, the executive board will be looking at the IFA, because by the time we meet again, which will be in April, we will be within the 90 days. And this IFA is supposed to be renewed 90 days prior to expiring. I'm still waiting on guidance from the state. They've held some informational and public comment in regards to the IFA process, MOU IFA process. So we will be bringing this back to the executive board. So really what the motion, Madam Chair, would be for a board member to make would be simply that approve the IFA for your signature and then approve the executive board to negotiate the cost sharing and updates for the new MOU IFA that will need to be renewed.
Perfect. Thank you, Director. Okay, so again, this is a twofold motion. The first one I need is for the board to approve the IFA, the updates to the IFA, right? Can I get a motion?
So move.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Mark Ullman, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And the second part of this, what I need is for the executive board to be able to negotiate the prices and move forward with that. So can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Mark Ullman, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I do have just a question real quick, just to make sure we're clear on something.
Sure.
Is there any risk of interruption of service during this period of pending?
No.
No, none at all.
All right, gotcha. Just make sure.
Any other questions before we go forward? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item 8, and that is Mojave La Paz County Partner Program Operation Leadership Committee update. Victor?
So Madam Chair, we don't have this committee currently. What this is supposed to be is that quarterly, per our bylaws, we're supposed to meet with our core partners and all of our pricing, and this is supposed to be, all of our cost shares are supposed to be reviewed, agreed upon, and then move forward. So if there's changes, it's being updated at least quarterly. So we need to move forward with this committee. This is a new committee. This is in our bylaws as well, Madam Chair. So this will be, it could simply be yourself, myself, and the core partners to bring this to the executive board, but that would be what would be needed, or other board members, if you wanted, Madam Chair, could be on this committee as well.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to put it out and see if anybody would also like to be on the leadership committee. Do that, Mr. Deemer? Perfect. Hey, anybody else? Need a motion on that, right? Yep. Okay, so what I'd like to have a motion on that, it would actually, part of this committee would be Director Smith, myself, then the core partners, if I learn how to talk, the core partners, and nobody else wants to be on it. I'd like to have a motion to move forward with just that at this time.
I second. Motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We move on to item 9, to approve transfer of funds from dislocated worker to adult program director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So speaking with Arizona at Work, Workforce Development Manager Sarah Navarro, she put forward a transfer for the new board members, the dislocated workers. This is something that we do every year, we have done since I've been the director. And I believe previously it was done for as long as I can recall. So we'll make these transfers and it'll go there. There will be funds remaining, as well as just so the board's aware for new members or people coming on, is that we have the Quest grant. The Quest grant specifically addresses dislocated workers. So there's both fundings in both options, and we'll still have other funding in dislocated workers. So I'm comfortable and confident that we can make these transfers. And I'm also going to ask the Workforce Development Manager to speak on that.
Thank you, Director Smith. So we are transferring a significant lesser amount this year from our dislocated worker into our adult funds. What that allows us to do is serve a larger population throughout our adult servicing and our program, the requirements for our adult program eligibility are significantly less, as it is not directly related to dislocation from work, but can go into a number of different factors. So this transfer from our fiscal and our program year will allow us to serve approximately another 90 to 100 participants within our adults, and we do still have funds that are allocated within our dislocated worker should additional DWs come in, and braiding that funding with Quest so that we can continue to support that population.
Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to transfer the funds from the dislocated worker to the adult program. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Mark Mullin, second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, review and accept Quest dislocated worker grant policy and procedures. Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask the Workforce Manager, Sarah Ungaro, to walk us through these policies.
Thank you, Director Smith. So with the allotment of the Quest Disaster Recovery National Dislocated Worker Grant, what we are doing is partnership with Arizona Western College and Mojave Community College to serve this population. This Department of Labor Fund grant that came through is specific to COVID-19 with specifications of those who may have lost their job, lost their businesses, or have gone through dramatic loss of their income as a result of different factors. A lot of individuals had their children taken out of schools and they lost their overall income, and to be able to put them back into the workplace and upskill them at this time that they have been out for a significant amount of time or need that additional support. We will be able to come in with these funds and additional training opportunities in La Paz and Mojave County to support them. These policies were created by myself, Mary Mendola from Mojave Community College, and Kathy Ocampo from Arizona Western College. It's specifically taken from the Department of Labor TGOL 1621 and 1622, which specifically goes over the eligibility requirements, how we would facilitate this grant between the three of us, the three entities between the colleges and Arizona at Work, and then how we would be able to monitor and report back. And within these policies and our MOUs with Arizona Western College and Mojave Community College, we have been noted that Arizona at Work will be held harmless. This is more notably our tool for how we will train staff and how we will facilitate this grant moving forward.
Hey, Sarah, could you, for everybody who's not been in any of the discussions and moved, can you kind of explain to the board what that means by being held harmless?
Within our memorandum of understanding between both of the community colleges, should there be disallowed costs that are incurred, or should something happen with the outcomes not meeting the Department of Labor standards, Arizona at Work will not be held responsible for any of those, and the county will not be held responsible. That will go directly to the colleges.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions for Sarah on this?
Hey, Sarah, do we have any idea how many people have been affected that will need these services? Do we have any scope on that?
There was, when the Department of Labor came through with several billions of dollars, and that went across each state. I know that Arizona, throughout several different workforce areas, I believe we had 9, went just under the cap for $14 million. We have allocated, I think, to serve just under 400 individuals. But because the funding is very specific towards upskilling and training related, our goal is to be able to co-enroll specifically with Arizona at Work. So we would bring them in as our direct participants, and then to utilize this grant and this funding for their upskill and their training requirements. So should they need additional on one end, they would be able to receive that through the grant, and then we would have additional resources on the other. I don't have the direct number for Arizona. I do know that our labor participation rate is under 50% right now.
So then my next question is how we're going to reach those people?
A very vast and large marketing plan between the colleges, and this spreads because Arizona Western College is also located in Yuma. We are covering a large majority of the state with our co-branding between Arizona Western and Mojave Community College, and it is live right now across the the entire state. So we're expecting to see a lot of that, and Arizona Job Connection, which is our state database, has already allotted for us to be able to enroll people under this grant within that. So it's very much noticeable, and we're already seeing people coming through. It's now getting the staff and training them and hitting the ground running.
Madam Chair. Amy, I would also note that we'll have 4 individuals that would come with this program. They'll be doing outreach, attending events, so forth and so on. Also, I don't know if you've seen it lately, but MCC's really started to gear up their social media platform. It's phenomenal. They're doing great things. We've been partnering more with MCC, and I'm not going to steal Sarah or Jill's thunder because I'm for sure they can talk more about the different marketing things that they put forward with MCC and in that. So that relationship is really starting to develop and strategically looking at things to make a difference of how people actually are referral. Part of the Atlas system that we develop as well will really be able to send over referrals and help people to understand where we're at. And not only that, but looking at the different social service agencies, through CLC, there'll be opportunities to present that information there. And also one thing to remember with this grant, it's also long-term unemployment. So there'll be some outreach done in that sense as well.
Thank you. Very happy to hear that we're already starting to see some action, some stuff going on. And where are we at with the hiring? We're starting to get applicants come in for that? Perfect. And there'll be 2 in La Paz at the Arizona Western College and 2 at Mojave Community College here or in Kingman, right?
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Mike Kelly, I have a question. If you can hear me, can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm sorry I was a little late joining in on the meeting. I'm actually meeting with Kathy today because I have a few questions with her. But speaking to a lot of folks here in Parker, they're really, really committed and really interested in these programs that we've been talking about. And I guess we're still behind a little bit because I have not yet seen any literature at all come out offering any type of programs to the communities on this.
Madam Chair. So thank you, Mr. Kelly. This is something that I can, Ms. Ocampo, when she's a board member, can speak at this as well. But just so that you're aware, we're ramping things up. We're working with the colleges. We're co-branding a lot of different materials. I know I've been on the call as well as Sarah Ungaro with leadership from AWC talking about the credential program, non-credential programs to really move this forward and rolling this out. I know they're committed to it. They're also doing it in Yuma. I have complete confidence in the plan that they've set forward, and I don't have any other concerns. But if Sarah has something else she'd like to add, she could speak on that, but she's working directly with Kathy Ocampo.
Awesome, guys. Like I said, and I know it's still in the works and running. I just want to let you all know all the feedback that I'm getting and talking to many, many people in town. They're very excited for these opportunities.
And Madam Chair, Mr. Kelly, I would just ask that, if you could please reach out to our business services or Sarah Ungaro directly herself as the workforce development manager, please keep a list of the different organizations, Ms. Ocampo down there. Those things will be important when they start having the initial discussions to really ramp things up, as opposed to it getting lost in the course of time. Anything that we can do to keep tracking those things will be great. And also, if there's core partner businesses, we can also look at setting up them on Atlas and working with our business services and our One Stop to make sure those services are delivered. So when they do identify people, they will go through the Atlas system to actually make that happen. And the nice part about that is when we do it through Atlas, we know when it's closed loop, meaning that if a company sends it to our One Stop or sends it to someone within Arizona at work, we know that was picked up, we know they were contacted, and we know the circle's been completed. That's why we really went with the Atlas program and moved in this direction, and I hope those answer your questions.
Yes, sir, you did. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, would this be something that we can expect to see on future agendas so we can all stay updated?
as to what's happening, because I think this is kind of an exciting opportunity, and I want to make sure that everybody's aware and that the money's getting spent and where it needs to get spent, and we're seeing changes and we're seeing those metrics ramp up that we're all working towards all the time. But if we could maybe keep this kind of, I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but if we could keep it up and maybe even samples of some of those marketing things, we all have a different reach. And so if there's things that we know that are tied to this Quest grant that maybe are appropriate to put out on our social media or on our web pages or things like that, but we know that it's for the Quest grant and we have the right language and lingo to utilize, that we can all, because we just all have different audiences.
Right.
And so maybe that would be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I agree with you too. And as far as the Performance Review Committee, we'll be talking a lot about that as well. So that's, anytime that you also want to come into that as well, because that'll be part of the Performance Review Committee going forward too.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns, or anything? Okay, I need a motion to accept the Quest Dislocated Worker Grant Policy and Procedure.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Move on to the next item, to review and accept updates to local policy and procedures. Director?
Madam Chair, I'm going to ask the Workforce Development Manager, Sarah Ungaro, to take this.
Thank you, Director Smith. So as you can see, this lovely list, we went through a bit of an overhauling with our policies and procedures with direct guidance from the state. We initially started this with our ETPL policy update back in the new program year, I want to say June, July time. And when we started to go through that process, speaking with new advisement and positions within the state for their policies and procedure writing, it was to remove direct policy lingo from our local policies that are from the state, that our local policies should stay at a local level. If they want to be referenced to state or federal code of regulations, they absolutely should, but it should not state state policies at our local level, because then it's misguidance. Again, we have local workforce development board goals and advisement and oversight over these, and that we need to ensure that what we're doing is moved at a local level with that guidance. So we've gone through all of these and we've changed it. We also changed a lot of the formatting. So for staff, it is much more conducive to training, and for anyone at any other level, that if you are not privy to reading policies and procedures and a lot of that information, it is able to ingest much easier. It is also applicable for our staff, so they can go directly to where a procedure is, where a policy is, and the corresponding attachments. So it is no longer kind of separated, but all a nice process and flow. We also had to change within our EO, our new officer, which is Ken Cunningham.
Yes.
And removing Jason Millen. So that is an overview for all of these direct policies. There weren't any actual changes other than, again, that redaction of the state verbiage.
Any questions for Sarah on this? I've actually seen these as well and went through the backup. It's made it very much more reader friendly and easier to understand. Is there any questions for Sarah on this? Who besides me would like Sarah to go through each one of these? So can I get a motion to accept updates to local policy and procedures, please?
The motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Go on to the next item, review and accept changes to local support services policy and procedures. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask Sarah Ungaro, the Workforce Manager, to walk us through this.
Thank you, Director Smith, Madam Chair. So this is actually changing a lot, or we're coming to the board asking for increase in several of our areas across supportive services. We brought this to the board, I believe, in October with changes in those who are not in training, increasing their limit to 2,500. But our cap stayed the same at 5,000. We're asking for that cap to now move from 5,000 to 6,500. Specifically because of inflation rates, we've seen within the last few months increased costs across the board. And we want to be able to meet and support our participants as much as possible. We have a lot of individuals that are going across the state for training. And when you have someone who is in a police academy in Yuma and we have a limited ability to support them and they are not receiving needs-related payments and they are not receiving an income, it is extremely costly to travel every week to that area. And every time that we go above this, there's only specific guidelines within our policies that will allow the workforce manager to be able to justify accordingly. And when we have so many of these, it bears in mind that we need to bring it to the board and say, hey, we see a problem. We would like to increase these. And should we see a sudden decrease, then we can bring it back before the board. But with U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistic and inflation rates across the entire country, we're seeing a need to support people at a much higher level. We want to make sure that we have that ability to do so. So the first request would be to move the training services maximum funding limit for each participant to $6,500. The other ask is that for individualized career services, maximum funding limit is at, again, we're at a $2,500 limit should they not be in training and they're only in individualized services, and should they go into training, for that to move up to that $6,500. We're asking for total vehicle expenses, including repairs and or insurance, to be moved from $1,500 to $2,000. For transportation assistance, which was previously at $1,500 to go to $2,500, that can include gas vouchers, bus, anything that will be transportation related, not direct vehicle maintenance, but to get them to and from. And then from our rent, mortgage, and utilities to move up an additional $200 from $1,300 to $1,500. And for a limit to go specifically into contractor tools. So if someone is not in an on-the-job training or within a ITA, or their ability to actually have a limit or cap on tools to go to $2,000.
Madam Chair. And then also, just so the board's aware, these are the caps. Not all of this funding will be spent on every participant. This is a cap, and it is based upon each participant's need. So just so the board's aware, it's just not a blank check of the max for every participant.
I'd also like to make the comment too, that all other avenues are tested before the money comes out of here. For instance, the Veterans Toolkit, you know, they would, if this was a veteran, they would indeed go to them and see what, they'd exhaust those funds before they got to this. Any questions at all for Sarah on this? Okay. Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to accept changes to local support services policy and procedures.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
This is Vicky. I'll second.
Thank you, Vicky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Move on to item 13, review and accept changes to local individual training account policy and procedures. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be saying this a lot. I'm going to ask the workforce manager, Sarah Ungaro, to take over and walk us through this, please.
Thank you, Director Smith. So we came before the executive committee and the board in October, and we saw a huge increase across most all of our training on our ETPL for just about everything, from the cost for individuals to go into training, what their lab fees were, what the tuition fees were. And that was not just with some of our largest providers, but with actually all of our providers across Mojave and La Paz. At that time, we asked for those increases for the colleges. Now we are asking for it for our participants so that we can support them to the maximum ability. They do have to exhaust Pale and any other funding options before they come to us, but we're asking for that policy limit to go from $7,000 for our OSY, ISY, and adult population to $9,000. And our dislocated workers, we were asking for it to stay at the $10,000 cap. This is not only tuition related, but anything that a provider has put onto our education training provider list, which shows specifically the tools, the supplies, if they're needing labs or lab fees that are associated with that training cost or expense. For some of our police officers, that would be their PT gear, firefighters as well. as we've seen the inflation, we need to note that we're also trying to meet that in our training expenses for participants.
Any questions?
Madam Chair. Sarah, do you anticipate any level of service as far as numbers served decreasing as we increase the cost given to an individual? Are we worried about not being able to serve as many people?
So we've actually seen an increase with our partnership with the college as they're able to apply for Pale, and those who may only have a small amount of funding where they were only able to go and utilize their Pale grants and recipients at that point, they were then dropping out or withdrawing from the colleges, with us coming in and saying, so you've been covered to this area, let us cover you the rest of your way to finish your program. We've seen a huge increase. A lot of our nursing students are actually coming to us in their second and third year saying, I'm no longer funded and I have a full-time job and I'm full-time in school. How do I do this? So it wouldn't be a maximum for each and every participant, but it will at least allow us to move forward in some of those areas where everything has risen. We want to make sure that we're able to meet them as much as possible where they're at.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion to accept changes to the local ITA policy and procedures.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is review and approve the Arizona Western College additional programs to be added to the ECPL director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask Sarah Ungaro, the workforce manager, to walk us through this. She's been
Do you want
doing
to just go
great.
directly to her?
She's been doing great work with Kathy Ocampo on these, and it's great because these policies also, Madam Chair, or ETPLs will actually go towards quests and the different things that we can use well. So having Arizona Western College really add these extra programs will be helpful. Sarah?
Thank you, Director Smith, Madam Chair. So I know that Mr. Kelly had noted where he was asking for additional outreach and what is actually happening in La Paz. One of the progressive movements for this is to add programs onto our education training provider list so that we can serve individuals under those grants, as well as with our WIOA funding. So we are asking to add the community health worker program onto our ETPL. And we are asking to add medical coding and billing certificate program onto our ETPL through AWC so that we can facilitate that within that community and assist those through both fundings.
Any questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve Arizona Western College additional programs to be added to the ETPL?
So moved or seconded.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. To the next item, to review and approve Mojave Community College additional programs to be added to the ETPL director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just echo what I said in regards to Arizona Western College. It also applies to MCC for our quest and the opportunities for people to move forward. Sarah Ungaro?
Thank you, Director Smith. So we are asking to add an additional 7 programs with Mojave Community College onto the ETPL. These will be for intravenous certified licensed practicing nurses. This is a 16-hour course, so it is very quick, gets individuals in, upskilling them, and then getting them back into whatever profession they were doing as an LPN, or whatever location they were doing that. So they have those additional certs and skills to upskill them, but also to meet the need where they're wearing multiple hats in the medical profession at this time. The other addition will be for first responder. Similar to AWC, they're adding a community health worker course, an administrative assistant training, which will go through 5 modules. The lean process improvement, this along with Six Sigma and continuous improvement were directly correlated from local businesses in Mojave County that are asking for additional upskilling of their current staff and leadership, customer service, management, supervisors, every single level of businesses are asking for additional support and training for their staff. And we already have 2 organizations, one in Kingman and one in Lake Havasu, who are willing to go through these trainings with us beginning in April.
April 21st.
Perfect. Any questions? Okay, and ask for a motion to approve Mojave Community College additional programs to be added to the ETPL.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item, review and approve Phoenix truck driving satellite programs to be added to the ETPL. Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this one, this was brought to the board for approval. The board approved it. However, each location needs to be its own ETPL. And with that, that was done, and now it's been brought back forward to the board. And I will also ask Sarah if she has any additional comments to please share.
We have rolled out our first satellite cohort with Phoenix Truck Driving in Bullhead City. We are planning to roll out another additional training with 8 drivers, a kind of a rotating cohort in that area. The significance of this and being able to add the satellite sites specifically is that we are able to provide the services to those who are currently working and needing these additional Class A's and may not be able to get to the main campus in Kingman. This is beginning our kind of champion with this in Bullhead City and then moving into Lake Havasu next for April or May. And then we're looking to move this into Colorado City. So we're also meeting all areas of Mojave County and then rounding out the year when it's colder in some of the other areas within La Paz in Parker. So we're extremely excited to do this. And when those additional satellite sites are added, we will be bringing, or proposed, we will be bringing that before the board.
Madam Chair? May I ask Sarah a question?
Of course.
We have been having some difficulties with some new regulations on the CDLs. I'm sure you're probably aware of it. How can we get these guys to pass some of these? And I know this sounds like a crazy question, but we have truck drivers that have been passing CDLs for 20 years. And under the new regulations, they're extremely strict. And we have a lot of guys sitting on, not a lot, I'm saying a handful of them, sitting on the sidelines just retaking tests. And we're just, as a business owner owning Campbell Ready Mix and concrete companies and asphalt, we need to get these guys on the road, and we are beyond frustrated. Is there anything that we as a workforce development can do to dig deeper into why this is happening to our truck drivers and why are they just sitting on the sidelines?
So with new federal regulations that came out, I believe 2 years ago, February 7th of last year. The MVD was no longer able to actually approve those. They had gone specific in how they are able to be tested and approved at that point. And as you said, people with Class A's were then having to either go back or having to recert at that point in time. So what we've gone and done is bringing the training provider who has a very high probability of success rate in our community to those areas and saying, well, let's get you the training where you're at if you're not going to be able to get it anywhere else. And if you're trying to go to other outlying areas that may provide similar training, you are having to send your people
to Phoenix
or to Tucson or to Yuma for 4 to 8 weeks. Whereas if we're bringing them there, they're able to get the training very quickly and within 4 weeks be able to go back out and do what they need to do.
Okay, because again, these are truck drivers that have been driving for decades, and I don't understand how this we all got sideswiped by this. And as we know, we have all these federal government jobs coming down about the same exact time, and we're getting hit pretty hard with this.
Absolutely.
And we're quite nervous moving forward with 120, I think, drivers out on the road, just me personally. So I'm just bringing my experience to the table because I'm sure if it's happening to me, it's happening to everybody. So how do we get those level of higher? So you're saying you're going to be bringing them into Lake Havasu City?
Yes.
And you said in April?
Yes.
Okay. How would I find that information on that?
I can have a conversation with you along with our business services and then bring in our training providers to have a larger conversation. Absolutely. So that we can discuss how we can support that area.
And if we have then some truck drivers, I think it'd be nice to be proactive, and I would recommend that for anybody else. If you have some truck drivers that are coming up soon, maybe in the next 6 months or a year, to probably just jump on board and do this so that they're not hung up anywhere along the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just so I understand, this is just additional, so when these are people who've been driving for a long time and now the new regulations, there are new things they have to learn. So this is a new training for them?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Nancy, the great news is with Phoenix Truck Driving, they have an actual refresher just on the theory portion as well. Actually, and I got the approval yesterday from the dean at Lake Havasu and Phoenix Truck Driving. We're actually shooting for 60 days now in Lake Havasu. But we can certainly put together a cohort of existing drivers that would only need to do the theory portion refresher. And then if they needed any new hands-on, that could be included as well.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. That's very exciting news. And again, bringing on new truck drivers, young ones coming in, it really did slow down the process and made it quite difficult for us. So I'm liking, it's wonderful to see that these doors are opening a little bit and we can be moving forward, because it seemed like there was not even a whole lot of warning to that. It was just, I guess we didn't assume that it was going to be so complicated when they've been taking the tests nonstop, you know, with no problems. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for that information.
Madam Chair. I don't know if it's been done, but if it hasn't been done, maybe we should do or work with MCC or Phoenix to really roll out a social media platform or do direct contacts to those local businesses to allow people to know that it has changed, to your point, across the board with local businesses. If you've already done that and you've already read my mind, then please just state that, because that's really good for us to hear as a board, or for the board to hear that you guys are being proactive and you're addressing the needs of the community as well for transport, because that is one of our sectors in demand.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So Sarah did read your mind. We have an open house in 2 weeks in Kingman, and then following 2 weeks before the next class in Bullhead, we have an open house scheduled, and then in Havasu, same thing. So about 45 days from now, we'll be having an open house, and we'll be inviting all those businesses affected so that they make sure that they're interconnected and we're serving those local businesses.
Madam Chair, just, we're in Kingman and in Lake Havasu City, so that would be really nice to know. But to let you know how simple it was for us in the past, we had one of our truck drivers that actually was certified to teach, and he would just work with them on local property, and that's what they would do, and then they'd be rolled out after they passed certification down the road.
The cities and the counties are facing the same issue, so we're hopefully far along in this process, and we'll be able to bring you some great news very shortly here.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great conversation. Okay, any other questions or concerns? Okay, I'd like to move with a motion to approve Phoenix Truck Driving Satellite programs to be added to the ETPL.
So moved.
Can I get a sure? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item is review and approve NASCARE programs to be added to the ETPL. Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sarah Ungar, the Workforce Manager, will you take over, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Director Smith. We have been working with NASCARE Incorporated, who provides peer support training across Arizona. It is an accredited program, and it is accepted, although this will be specific to Arizona. If anyone gets the certificate, it is accepted nationwide through the VAs. The benefit to this program, and what actually had us begin this endeavor with NASCARE specifically, was that we had individuals who wanted to go into the behavioral health field or were looking to give back into their community and wanted to know exactly how they would start that. So with this program, they are trained through NASCARE, and Access actually certifies them for this training and this certification. And then they're able to go into behavioral health entities, the VAs, any agency that is providing some sort of behavioral health or counseling and case management program, and they were able to work as a peer-to-peer level with appropriate understanding of what that looks like, to then move them into whatever health field that may be, or behavioral health field. For different agencies, if someone has had over, I believe, 2 to 4 years as a peer support, then they can move into a behavioral health technician position without the formal education of a bachelor's degree that is most often required. But it is also a great entrance into this field, so you have a better understanding of exactly what you're getting into before you pay for an entire bachelor's degree or master's degree in that field. You were exposed to what it looks like to be in these settings and how to be able to adapt in crisis case management situations. So it has been added in Yavapai recently so that we are able to support that community, and we are now asking for it to be added in Mojave and La Paz.
Any questions? All right, and ask for a motion to approve NASCAR programs to be added to the ETPL. Thank you. Can I get a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item is to review and accept the WIOA data validation closure for program year 2022. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to share this with the board that all of the information that needed to be fixed or corrected has been corrected, and there's nothing outstanding at this time in regards to the data validation. That's it, just to be transparent.
Okay, can we need a motion on that? No?
You could accept it
Yes?
or not. You can accept it or no motion needed.
Okay, thank you. Accept that. Move on to item 19. This is discussion only. Review of program year 21 SAM adjusted level performance data. Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as we look at this, I want to do two things. First, I want to give the board members and new board members and current board members an overview of where the program was, a little over a year ago, where the staff was and where we're currently at. Because I think if you just look at the numbers, you don't see the true picture. What I mean by that is we have a new workforce development manager, Sarah Ngaro, who's done an excellent job with her team, hiring the right people, putting the right people in positions to make decisions, training the right people, upscaling their skills so that they understand all the different things that are required to meet these measures. With that being said, transitioning it here, Joe Thornberry, former chair, myself, Sarah Ngaro, Supervisor Gould, met with the state for the levels that you see were negotiated. When you look at those and go through those, they went to a SAM, right? So that's the new adjusted model of how the statistical analyst model, so that you can see that where we're at. So I mean, if you just take one and you look across the board, right? So if we go to adult and take the credential attainment rate, right? The negotiated rate was 66.5. When I did the analysis, the SAM, and they adjusted that, they took it down -7.8. So then we had to meet it, right? Which was the adjusted level for 2021 was 58.7. Okay, and then we came in we actually performed at 50.5, so we were at 86, right? So those kind of gives you the measures that so you can understand it across the board. When you combine all of those, the program finished at 95.2. Not the program. The adult finished at 95.2. The goal is to finish 90 and above for each one. So as you go through, and I'm not going to go through every line, but I wanted everybody to understand of how you could get more than 100%. Is that it's for that what was negotiated measure and what it actually came in as, so people are aware. If you look at overall performance, and that's the reason why I really wanted to share the transition of the team, where things were at, and how diligently we worked with open positions, hiring people, training people. And then you look at the number of 89.6. So we're 0.4 from meeting our goal. So we didn't meet it. We can't say we met it, but when we didn't, it's at 89.6. With that being said, though, I think we're still in a strong position, Madam Chair, and my hats are off to the Workforce Development Manager for her and her team's hard work to get to that point.
Thank you, Director.
Madam Chair, I have a question. We see these numbers now. Do we know what they were compared to a year ago? Or a year before this, I guess, because these are 2021s. But
Yes, so these are actually from the previous program year. So our program year for the statistical model adjustments were actually from June of 2020 to July of 2021. And when we're looking at credential, that is actually for those that were exited and were within that period. And then the MSGs were for those that were actually served during that year. So when we're looking at those that were exited right there between 20 and 21, that was some of our highest COVID rates across Mojave and La Paz that January. So when they came in to do the statistical adjustment model from the state, they said, we need to make sure that we're being a little bit more diligent of how we're reviewing specifically those credential rates because people were out of work. They were not able to complete credentials, schools were shut down, and so they were able to come in and give us some grace, but that was directly throughout that period of June of 2020 to July of 2021.
So what were they like prior to that?
I don't have, that would have been year 2020, and I don't have those directly, but I can get those numbers for you if you would
Just
like.
curious how well you've raised, because I know you've worked hard. Just curious what that benchmark was.
I can absolutely get those for you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Discussion on
Just accept it or, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and accept that then. Any questions, any other questions or concern? Okay, the next item is the on-site visit from the Department of Economic Security Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we had a visit this past month as well. You see a letter here of an upcoming one. The one that we currently had was more geared towards employment services and seasonal migrant workers. We were identified as a significant area, but we didn't actually have anybody enrolled as a farm worker or migrant, seasonal migrant worker. So with that being said, it was left to DES as well to make a decision in regards to, did they want to still be a significant area? And I don't recall if there was a decision made or what's come of that. Sarah, did you get any feedback on that?
To my knowledge, it's still in discussion.
Okay, so Madam Chair, it's still in discussion on that. And that's all I have in regards to that. There were no findings. We did get a letter for that. So everything was good across the board. There was no issues there. So just to be the board to hear as well, there was nothing, no findings, no issues. Everything was excellent. The next one that you see on here, this is really just to say, to share with the board that they're gonna come in, they're gonna talk to us, sit down with us. They're just looking for best practices. And I just wanted to share with the board, that's it.
Okay. Okay, we can accept that. Is there any concerns or questions on that? The next item is the Workforce Development Board Recertification Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with this here, we've uploaded all the data, all the information. As you can see, this really just goes back and talks about the board's role, the different things we're supposed to be doing. When I talk every meeting about being in compliance and reviewing the board roster and the membership, this is what we're reviewing, right? Making sure that we're in compliance of all the different percentages that we have to do across the board. So all of this has been uploaded. Now we just wait until they send us a letter or follow up with us with any concerns.
Any questions? Okay, we go on to Title II reports, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in regards to Title II, when I reached out to Cheryl Hart for filling Title II and what that looked like and how we should go about that, I was also curious when I was trying to see how all the Title II partners would coordinate and work together and what that looked like and should we be receiving reports. When I reached out, our numbers, because I asked why we haven't received any reports. I've been here over 2 years and never seen one of these or had it emailed to myself. When I reached out, it was explained to me because the statistical model was so small, they didn't want to identify people. They couldn't de-identify the numbers. But now having Mojave Community College and La Paz on board, these numbers should go up significantly and the board should be receiving a Title II report. And I just wanted the board to see what a Title II report looked like. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Moving on to Mojave La Paz Workforce Convening Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with this here, we attended for the board, just so that they're aware, we attended a convening down in southern Arizona. I forget which city we were in at the time, but it was Madam Chair, Sarah Ungaro, and Rachel and I. The point that came out of it, it was really a unique ecosystem where they were looking at how all the community partners work together. When I first got here, Arizona at Work, I felt it was like the best kept secret, and we did a video to really get people out and get them, understanding of what we were doing in the community. And so I think when you look at this, it really speaks for itself in regards to what we would look to do for a convening. But Madam Chair, what I would say to the board is two things. The first being, we have a very, we've had transition with several board members. So we're, I would say, a younger board from when I took over a couple years ago. New board members, I think by doing a convening and really working with the sectors in demand that we have at the table, and asking the board members really to reach out to the communities, as well as working with all of our core partners to do this, I think we can make a strong difference in the community. And I think we could build upon some of the things that MCC has done already in regards to what they've seen across the board. Madam Chair, the goal here is really to say, is this something the board wants to take on? This really has to be board driven with the support of Arizona at Work, the core partners, as well as, you know, the local colleges and the CTE programs. I think if you look at where we're at, and Amy and Michael Kelly on the call, and we talked about the different things of how, what can we do for Quest? How can we move things forward, right? If we did a program like this and a convening brought everybody together and really did a sector industry demand and really called on our community to answer the bell, it would be great. And it does two things for the board as well. So when we're forward thinking, not only do we have this convening, but every 4 years, the board has to write, or the board and the program writes a new plan, right? We could use the information you glean from here for our plan to really drive it forward for our businesses and the things that we see. Now, would it write the whole plan? No, it won't. But did we get input from businesses? Are we starting to move down that road so that we can have this done? It's my understanding the last plan took over a year to write. It's time to think about those different things. And then it comes to timing of it and what's the board's flavor. Do we want to do it in 3 geographical areas? Do we want to do it in 4, right? Do we want to do it in 5, meaning that we have Colorado City, we have La Paz, and then we have the Tri-Cities here in the area. I think if you're trying to do a convening, I don't think you're going to get businesses all to drive to Kingman. I don't think you're going to get them all to drive to Bullhead. We can look at our board as it's represented today with members that are present, as well as members that are on the call today as well. So this is a general concept of the put to the board and say, is this something we want to do? And if it is, then we say the next step is, do we want to set dates and times? I was being extremely aggressive in thinking March because that's Director Smith. Always push the envelope, always see how much you can do, right? You don't know what you can do until you do it and you raise your hand and you answer the bell. And I was also thinking of the program and Quest, because I also believe Quest should be off the ground and it would help be a launching pad for Quest and the different opportunities that we could have, as well as writing the plan. So there's a lot of things involved here, but I can say as the executive director to the board, this isn't something that one of us or 2 of us or 3 of us can do. It's going to take the full commitment of the Workforce Development Board and our community partners. And it's a true reflection of looking in the mirror and saying, can we do it or can't we do it? Are we being too aggressive? Or do we say we want to step back and say, let's try to do it maybe 1 a quarter, right, in a different city and do that as well. Plan it out. But it has to be thought out. It has to be fruitful. And we have to move the bar. So I present, Madam Chair, this to the board, and we'll now turn it over to yourself for further discussions with the board.
Sure. Thank you, Director. Actually, so just kind of bring it home, it will be like a roundtable of sorts. What we have is we invite the businesses in and we would talk about these things. What are your needs? What kind of training? What are you looking at? And as a board, we can move forward with trying to meet their needs. At this point, I would like to refer to Mr. Thornberry here to talk a little bit about his thoughts on this actually happening and success of it. March, I think, might be a little aggressive, but that's my opinion. That's totally up to the board. I'll support whatever the board thinks. But go ahead, if you don't mind.
Madam Chair, I, as workforce chair in the past, I had the opportunity to go to the convenings for workforce in the state and always came away with great information. As the new business services coordinator, my primary job is to meet the needs of the employers. the way I do that is I go out and I hear what Nancy has to say about her incumbent CDL trainers, and they're in a bind. And then I come back to the program and I say, hey, there's an area here that we need to address. And then we go to the vendor and we say, hey, we need to create something. And that's how this is supposed to work. So for me, having the voice of the sectors and the voice of this board is critical in producing the new plan, because we can look at data and statistics all day long. Those are great, but the stories behind them is what's going to drive us in the right direction to meet the needs. So as business services, I'm all in favor for this. I know that MCC recently conducted 16 different listenings or roundtables with the help of the chambers. And that's how we kind of came up, Arizona Work and MCC together came up with what is it the businesses need as far as professional development. And that's why you see that on your ETPL update today. And we have 25 people from Lake Havasu scheduled to start in March, and we have 8 people in Kingman scheduled to start in March, and then open to the public is starting on February 21st. So being able to hear those voices, being able to, you know, mold the program to meet the needs of the businesses. And I've had the luxury of meeting with Dean Cooper here at Bullhead and Dean Aoun in Lake Havasu very recently. And they do the same thing. They serve the businesses, right? They're training people to go out and fill those business needs. So I think it's critical to have the voice of the businesses. How you do it, you know, I'm on board whatever you need. And as you'll see later in my report, I think we've expanded our reach quite a bit in the last 6 months.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So really, realistically, you're doing a business meeting every day. That's what you do. So as a board coming together, go ahead.
I'd recommend these about around 2 months in each of the different locations. So, you know, Parker and Havasu, Kingman, Bullhead, even, what was the other one?
Colorado City.
Yeah, the one way up there. But split it up about every 2 months, do a different area. That way that way businesses aren't traveling to speak with us.
Well, I think, because a lot of us are familiar with this. This is not a new concept, but a lot of people on the board are new to discussing this. So what I would suggest and like to do is follow this up with an email to all the board members to because give us some time to think about it and see what they would think, maybe put some ideas back about, you know, like Mr. Deemer said about when, what their thoughts are, what, you know, that kind of stuff. I think that would be a good idea.
Madam Chair. I think Tammy did something too, didn't she? Do kind of a roundabout along with MCC. So my question, I guess, for Joe and anybody else that's seen these, do you have kind of a model of how this is going to flow and what kind of topics and things like that? Have you seen it someplace else so we kind of know that maybe when we send out this email to see if people are in?
Yeah, definitely. We have a footprint, you know, that we could put out. You know, the key thing is, you know, to try to get 15, 20 businesses at each location or each convening. You know, there's twofold for this. Obviously, we want to know what the board members that are businesses need for themselves and what the sectors in demand need. But also, as the board looks to writing the new plan, you know, that's really going to drive the new direction, you know, and always being, having Sarah bring all these new ETPLs, what that means to us is we're just expanding. We can now serve a bigger population. We can serve more businesses. We have more than one vendor for one thing. So, yeah, so definitely, you know, it pretty much the model is, you know, a 45-minute discussion within your groups, and then it reports back to listen to everybody's findings and then make a plan moving forward. So it's a 3-section, you know, and I know Tammy's, like you said, had been involved in some of these as well. We did a big one with the city of Kingman a couple of years ago as well on the economic development side. It was a data gathering event as well as, that's a great idea, why aren't we doing this type of thing.
Well, and I know for me, what we are seeing a lot when we go out and meet is that we can't find people to teach these great ideas that we have. And so I think that a component perhaps needs to be, as business and industry has these asks, we have asks back to say, okay, you want us to do X, how can you help us get there? We're willing to do some of the groundwork and legwork to set it up, but who's your best guy that teaches this? Who's your best lady that teaches that? And can you help us? And your company is going to benefit from this, but others might benefit as well, raising the entire county, both counties, as far as what we're doing in the workforce that we have. So to me, that's a big piece that we hear and might need to be included in some of these discussions.
Oh, absolutely. And all the meetings I've had with MCC and this leadership training that's moving forward, that MCC being able to hire facilitators that don't have to have a degree. They have a degree in charge of the program, and now they can hire facilitators. And that's exactly what we've done. We have some people in this room that are going to be, or have family members that are going to be facilitators, because you're right. Let's take advantage of those skill sets that are out there, combine it with the college of choice, and then move it forward.
Madam Chair, if I may. So to answer that question, we actually have not only statistical models nationwide, but also within Arizona. So when we went to the Arizona convening, we were able to see how WestMec had taken different needs from a local business and said, how can we transfer this? How can we take your current staff and put them on site and build into our labs exactly what you need to be able to do engineering at such a heightened level? So it's taking that, meeting those needs, and then pulling those. You're already training the people. Why not do it in a way that you're going to get them the certificates that you need? So it's building that ecosystem. And that's specifically what we're trying to do, is take the model from other areas that have championed it across the nation and say, we can do this here. We like to come out of the box and be creative. So we're going to take what you've done and we're going to map it into Mojave and La Paz and say, we have multiple training providers. You have people who are currently working with you, whether that be for Nucor. Who do you have on site that's training and teaching this? How can we get them to be able to facilitate this and make sure that it is accredited or credential forming so that you can get what you need, and then we flow them back into either apprenticeship models or within a vast array of different entities. We have someone that's doing HVAC apprenticeships, and we have another HVACR company who's saying, I need to utilize your training for my people. So we're seeing people back and forth through kind of these open windows that we're beginning to facilitate, like an osmosis system. And the more that I think that we do that and we cultivate it, we won't have the issues that we're having where we're seeing such a shortage of facilitators, which we know is a huge problem right now.
First, let me say Mojave Paz has never stayed within the box in all the years that I've known them. But Mr. Deemer, Region Manager for Department of Economic Security and Employment Engagement, do you look like you have something that you'd like to add to this conversation?
He'll just take care of it.
All right.
It's funny. So everybody knows me and Joe go out all day, every day together. And it's so funny that, as you guys are talking, these are the same things that we're talking to the businesses every day. Right. We're doing convenings with them every day. We're bringing OEO data. We're bringing all this stuff. We're putting all these things together constantly. And it's, one, the partnership between EEA and Mojave County Title 1B is, I don't think it's ever been better. And it's so funny. So as you guys are talking about these convenings, me and Joe spend so much time in a car together every week. This is the third time this week we've been at Bullhead. And so it was like deja vu driving down here this morning. But it's funny, as John's saying, well, hey, when you guys do this convening, are you going to have Willie and the apprenticeship team? Well, me and Joe have already talked about, we've talked to Sherry already. They're going to come down. Well, are we going to do this? Are we going to have these people? Yes, we're going to have Rapid Response Nicole. We're going to have Alish Fisher. We're going to have those people come down for these things and have these events and do these big convenings. One, that way, it's tying in the rest of the state and all of your juris departments, all your DES departments, and really allowing them to come in and put their 2 cents into the plan again too, which I think is brilliant with what Sarah has going on with this, is pulling it all together and again, breaking down those silos and making everybody a one team. It's a Mojave La Paz, for the state of Arizona. So it's just amazing. And it's great that I have a great boss. I love my boss, John, that he writes this down and it's like, man, me and Joe already did this. We were already past it. We got this.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you guys are doing the work. Board has to say, do we think this is a great idea? I mean, I'm 100% behind it.
I also think some of the key people of the board need to be there present. I think that'll just draw in companies just for the sheer of oh, this is a board.
Right.
Like, yes, they can do this all the time, but I think
As a
for
board.
some employers, it's gonna be, oh, this is the workforce development board. People will come talk to them. Like it's, and really, they're just gonna be doing what they always do, but it's gonna be more of the, just making the employers happy. And that's gonna be the
Together,
big
seeing
thing.
what they need. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and so I think that's the big key thing, is just having the board and maybe a few more people part of it than they normally do all the time. Just kind of show, okay, hey, we're all here for you. How can we help you?
Madam Chair. So I think, great point, John. And that was my point of really why I said it has to be board driven. I think if we, and I'm gonna bring out I'm gonna talk directly to a new board member, board member, Ms. Campbell, because her connection to Lake Havasu and her connection to business people, being, I believe, the businesswoman of the year. I think when you look at those different things from business people, it's like anything, right? Peer-to-peer is always different, right? Because now as a peer, I can't say, oh, I'm too busy for that. As a peer, I'm going to say, this is the benefit. And this is why I see it as a business owner of why it's important, as opposed to if we do it as government,
Right.
we're the government coming to save you.
Right.
But that's not what this board is. This board is 51% more, has to at least be 51% business driven. So why I said the board, and I've heard what Jason and Joe have done. They've done more things, and I'm gonna cover some of that in my director's report, but the things that I've heard, we're finally, as a board, I will say, since I have been here, we finally, as a board, are truly following the outlay of what WIOA is. Meaning it's not participant, it's participant and businesses, right? Both people being represented equally at the table. Finally, I believe that's happening, and that's part of why the convening is important. And that's why I would implore the new board members who are on the call, who are in the room, right, to answer that bell and to make a difference in your community. Michael Kelly, this is your opportunity. I'm speaking directly to you, all right, in La Paz. These are your opportunities as a business person to make a difference in your community. And when you look at them, if we do it every 2 months or what I envisioned when I originally thought was kind of like how we're doing here today. But we would do them in the local communities and I want to do them simultaneously. Because if you look at the board and the way it's set up, geographically it matches the areas that we serve. And then do it virtually with all the places that we would identify virtually. So what I mean is you'd have the same questions being asked to the same sectors in demand, and then we would reconvene virtually and we would report out virtually for this site to the other sites. We don't have to do it that way, but that's kind of what I was envisioning, so that you could wrap it up, conclude it, and put it all in an executive summary. And then as a board, start looking at your plan and what that looks like to really drive. That was my vision. But once again, it takes the board's commitment and the board members that today, when they say aye, it means I am going to answer that bell and I am going to go do this, right? And us as staff, core partners and everyone in the room together are going to answer that bell and do that together as well. Because it takes all of us, all four partners, to really make this happen. And I'll conclude with that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I am 100% behind this. I think this is a great opportunity for us to come together. And like you said, 51% of our board is businesses. So, I represent a business. 51% of this board does that. So, I don't know, we just want to stop at this point, the board have anybody on the phones in the room, have any other questions, comment? Do we want to decide on a date? Do we want to just maybe give us some time? I think you can give the board some time.
Madam Chair, as I stated earlier, this has to be board driven.
Okay, all right.
If the board doesn't come up with a date or want to drive it forward, it ends here today.
Okay.
Madam Chair, my thought is, this sounds like something that staff is doing.
Right.
And that we could expand it. And maybe March is a little aggressive, but I would leave that to staff as far as what they think they can get accomplished. But if they want more from the board, perhaps don't we meet again in March? April. So maybe in April, if people don't have a big, thought on this, maybe we have them bring back what it's gonna look like. In the meantime, we have some emails going back and forth, what people are willing to commit to. And then maybe in April, we have an agenda, a layout, something like that. I don't know. That's just a suggestion, but I would say, I think staff is the one who has to tell us how much they think they can accomplish as well, because they have a lot of tasks already.
Right.
And they're doing some of this, so.
Well, staff just proposed to me end of April timeframe. So
When do we meet in April?
We meet it's always the fourth week of, on a Thursday in April.
Madam Chair, I would recommend
27.
moving towards April because of, you're gonna deal with some spring break issues and people coming and going in. I know when it's spring break and we do it just gives me that much more work before and after it all too. If I do, and I work usually through spring break, but do you see what I'm trying to say?
Right, I do.
It complicates a lot of things for me during those holidays.
Because of spring break and Lake Havasu, a lot of areas are wanting to wait till May. April's in Lake Havasu, businesses can't break away.
Oh, I see, to do an event out.
yeah, and we could do the first one at Kingman. That way it wouldn't affect the Havasu area because that would be the following day.
Sounds good to me.
I propose like the third week in April
Right.
for Kingman.
I agree. Anybody else on the board have any suggestions? The third week in April to have their first business convening?
Sarah's looking for confirmations.
We have a very large event that exact week in April with schools. Our entire KUSD system is going to be doing a hiring event on site the third week of April.
Oh, never mind. Actually, on that day.
Exactly on that day.
So
Maybe
your
in
point is
May.
what now? I'm sorry?
Maybe look in May.
In May, you think?
Yeah, maybe the first or second week of May.
First week of May.
First week?
Because if you do it the first week of May, then June, and if you're gonna do it every 2 months, maybe your next week, one is maybe in August, when people are kind of done with their summer vacations and things
That's an
like
idea.
that. So you kind of have your June and July off to regroup, debrief, look at what worked well, what didn't work, I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is totally, I believe a board-driven decision. So, I mean, if everybody's on board with that, doing our
And then
first
that
one.
way in April, we could have the discussion here again and see kind of the format, the layout. I don't know, does that work?
First week of May.
Sure, the first week of May would work, Madam Chair. So I would also recommend that if it's the will of the board is with staff is to go back, pull together the question part of it. But then, Madam Chair, like I said, that the Workforce Development Board has to answer the bell.
Right.
Us as staff will provide you guys the sectors in demand, and we will ask that staff, that the Workforce Development Board commits to. We will get you the questions, we will get you the format, we will get you the place, we will give you all the details. But then we ask the Workforce Development Board, if they approve this today, that they bring the businesses that they know in sectors in demand to the table for the conversations. So we'll do our part, right? But then and by all means, if we identify businesses or other things as staff, obviously we're gonna support the board doing that. But we wanna know that the board is gonna say, all right, I'll commit to bringing, because you all represent a different sector. Pick that number and assign what that is. I'll bring 3 board members, I'll bring 3 businesses to the table as a board member. I mean, I think if you're at this table as a board member, you should be able to bring 3 businesses to the table for a workforce convening, Madam Chair.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I think with the guidance of staff, it's not going to be that hard. This is our staff out there talking to these people every day. So, anybody on the phones have any thoughts? So as a board then, do we want to move forward with the first week in May And do we have that commitment from the entire board as far as being able to bring businesses to this? And we'll start in Kingman. So does that sound good for the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
about what time of day are we, what time of day would this be? I mean,
Well, that's totally up to us. If we want to do like we've done today, you know, do like a 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, I don't, you know, it's.
Madam Chair, I would ask Employment Services and Business Services, what are the best times to reach employers and what are your thoughts? You're actually having the conversations to know their schedules and what might be available, Madam Chair. And then obviously the business at the table, what would work for them.
So, Madam Chair, I would say similar to what like the Tri-City Chamber meetings are, would probably be the more of a like midday lunch kind of meeting. And I'm sure between the businesses that me and Joe could pull there, they could make that availability of time. You know, that way it gives them time to get their business in the morning handled and then of course in the afternoon to follow up on their day, so. Yeah,
Yeah, hopefully we have a long enough period of time so that everyone can prepare for it. Obviously, Mondays and Fridays are out.
Right.
And Fridays, people are busy. So, you know, we could certainly, you know, look at the best time. We could send out a survey, you know. But I think if we have enough planning time to give people, you know, 30 days to know it's coming.
Madam Chair, the businesses that I could bring to the table, those timeframes do not work. They're in the heat of the businesses, and especially if we start getting into May and August, it's gonna be quite hot. So we're gonna be out the door by 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And my recommendations, if you really wanna get the apprenticeship levels that I work with, we're talking more of a 2 o'clock in the afternoon situation. I know it sounds like the heat of the day, but it's actually indoors, it's not outdoors. And I know that all the contractors and everybody in my industries all try to, in the summertime, start finishing up about then. And they clearly do not mind going in, you know, especially if there was, I'm using this as an example. Part of the jobs I did was an event coordinator, so I'm just trying to keep that all in mind. If they knew there was some pizza, something like that, it's that perfect time before dinner, because most of my industry is asleep by 7 o'clock as well. They do not do evening things. They do not do mid-lunch things during that time of year. That's my personal opinion on that.
And each city probably has a little different personality with that. So maybe Havasu, is it better to do Havasu in a cooler month? Or is it better to do it in a warmer month in the afternoon? I think that's what we're having to figure out, right?
I don't, Madam Chair, I don't think that the time of the day matters as much. It's just how quickly they do get off work. And based on the side of that makes it a good time is they are out the door at 4 in the morning. They're finishing up their day by 1 o'clock. And then we can actually capture them, especially with some of these incentives that you have, but the opportunities, I'm not even gonna say incentive, opportunities for them if they can make it. And I'm not sure how much of that is employee-based or if that's just because I've never done this before. Is this the business owner base or the business manager base? Is that who we're targeting? And if that's the case, 2 o'clock is probably a great time because their shifts are done. The men or women are finishing up. And those are the ones that I'd like to see. Me personally would really like to see that sector because when I go to a lot of government things, it's lunchtime. And we are completely, my personal opinion, we're completely disconnected from this group. I mean.
So I think that we need to do that sector times, like we might do one in, in Kingman at noon. We might do one, in Lake Havasu at 2, just depending on what sector we're actually bringing to the table.
Madam Chair, I might propose, just like you said, we might have double in one day in one area. So you do healthcare and hospitality and a couple others in the morning, and then in the afternoon you do the construction-based and HVAC, electrical, transportation, so that so the staff can make a day of it. Yet we're targeting the right groups at the right time.
I
like that idea.
I think that's what we should do.
I think it's a great idea.
Perfect. All right, so am I going to get the support? Are we going to get the support from the board? I know everybody in this room is saying, yeah, this sounds great. You have good questions, good conversations. What about the people, all the members that are on the phone? Do you have any comments? Can we get that commitment from you to be part of this?
Phones.
Can someone talk?
This is Gary.
Hi, Gary.
I'm sure Bennett can, because the biggest part of that'll come from Kingman, certainly on the economic development side, will be the business park. And so I don't think timing is an issue. A lot of them have different shifts and everything, but I will make sure that all this gets conveyed to Bennett, and so that we can be ready for this. It's a great idea. So
thank you. Yep. Thanks, Gary. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's Mark Oleman with River Medical, American Medical Response. Yeah, I support it in any way that we can continue to support you in this. We will.
Great.
Madam Chair, may I ask, I have to leave, but I can Zoom on my way home with my car. Can you resend me the link? I know there was confusion with the link this earlier, so.
Okay.
Again, and I want to thank everybody, but I do have another
Sure,
meeting I have to
absolutely.
do. But I do want to hear you guys' closing discussion, so I will be doing that via my car. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
You bet.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we,
Please be careful.
do you think we should maybe discuss some next steps from this, or do we have enough?
Madam Chair, I would just recommend that staff comes back to the board in an email with perspective, share the different information. If we need to call a special meeting to move it forward, we call a special meeting to move it forward. But I think we could probably do this via email and really make this happen and then really get the board buy into it. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, all right. Sounds good.
And Madam Chair, that would consist of myself, Jason Millen, Joe Thornberry, obviously the Workforce Development Manager, Sarah Ungaro, and anyone else who would like to participate. We'll set up a meeting, discussion, formulate a plan, and then bring that to the board. We'll also share that opportunity with the full board. So if somebody wants to be involved and really be a driving force, they can have that opportunity as well.
Perfect. Okay. I'll be part of that as well. So,
Thank you.
okay, well, we'll go ahead and table that, the rest of that discussion for now, and move on to the local governance training director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have a lot of new board members. I shared a link here in this as well. Really quick, just so everybody's aware, if you go through here as a new board member, right, it says roles and responsibilities. If you click through these different programs, you can actually find out
Make your computer easier to use.
what is the role and responsibilities of an actual board member. And if anybody has any questions, I'm available for questions on these, but I would just recommend as a new board member, you go through these and review them. They're pretty dry, so it might be difficult. But I think having been at a board meeting, you kind of now understand what we do here, and have kind of laid out how the committees work and how the different core partners are supposed to work. So I'll just conclude with that. Just let everybody know that local governance training on your role or responsibility, that information can be found here.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward unless anybody else has any other discussions. I'd like to go on to the reporting part of today's meeting, and the first one is myself, the chairperson's report. I did not prepare an actual or put together report, but I did have a couple of thoughts and stuff I want to talk about. First of all, I do hope the board realizes how much work that Mojave County, Sarah Ungaro and her staff put into not only every day, but these meetings and everything going forward. These things are planned. They go they come across seamlessly. We have a place to be, we have, snacks, everything's put together. So, and not just that, just the work they do every day. It's amazing. The people that are coming together and being part of this. So I just want to take a second, recognize Sarah, your leadership is fabulous. I've watched this go from, okay to just a great department. And I think you guys are doing a fabulous job moving forward and getting things done. And there's so much work. And that being said, with this board, I would like to go, now that I've been going to be the chair again for the next 2 years, I would really like to see a lot more in-person attendance, because we don't really have, there's a lot of discussion going on here today, and I know you wouldn't be able to make every meeting, but if we could get more coming to the table and being in person, there's a lot more going on in this room. There's side conversations, and there's a lot more information. I've attended some as well, especially during COVID and stuff where we've all been virtual. Even though things do get accomplished, a lot more does get accomplished if you can come in person. So hopefully we can all put forth the effort to come in person more. I know it can't be every time, but we really need a lot more from the board than just to call in and some input of what's going on. So I will leave that there and go ahead to Director for your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to go to this software and thank Tammy Ersenbach. She included me in a meeting in regards to this company. Basically, this company can pull fabulous data, fabulous reports. If you look here, this is information, some of this we already have, and this really isn't, you want to just scroll down, Rachel. There's things on here, go a little farther that I just want to identify. So even commute time, right? Like our commute time is 21.8, right? So we have commute time. There's different things on here that you could glean. We have our participation rate, right? There as well. So this is one thing. This is just analytic, demographic data background. But if we go a little further and go to the other report, they shared this. So this is an industry spotlight, right? So, and if we scroll down, so they'll share what the wages are, right? How it's looking. The nice part about this as well is that it'll also project forward sectors in demand, jobs in demand, wages of what they're currently at, where our population's coming from, where they live, a lot of different information. I just shared this today. Tammy and I met with them on Monday, but it was important enough that I thought, all right, and I shared this with Sarah and Joe. But I thought it was important enough that I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. The reason being, this information is going to be needed for the plan. To be able to put together a great plan of what's needed and move things forward. If you want to scroll down just a little further, Rachel, just so that people can see the different things that they can do within this. And this is just one sector that they just took a snapshot of. So I'm going to conclude for just a moment. I'm going to turn over to Tammy and ask Tammy to jump in on this from the meeting that we had on Monday with EQ Jobs.
I think the thing that impressed me the most is it not only gives us a picture of where we're at, what our sectors are. One of the things that I think you were on the call at the time when they were able to say some of our people that work in Mahogany County live in California and back east, which means those are remote workers of businesses that we have here. So the bigger picture that we have, and then the forecasting that we're able to do, because they're able to predict for each sector and down to six figures on their NAICS code. So that drills it down pretty low, what that looks like between now. That helps us with training. That helps us to recruit from outside the area. It really gives us a bigger picture that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Well, I concur, Tammy. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to share that with the board. That's something that, I know that economic development's looking at, along with Title 1B and community services, to make sure that we can provide that to the board. There's no action needed. I just simply want to make sure that people are aware that we are looking for this data to really drive things forward. I think so as a board, we're making decisions based on evidence and best practices as opposed to,
I want to say one more thing. The cost with something, with other software similar to this is 25 to 35,000, and this was less than 10. So the cost for what we're getting and really specific for workforce is really drilled down. And I think that's something we have to look at too, with the value that we're getting for our money.
no, I agree. That's all I have on that, Madam Chair.
Okay, now, as far as the reports, we'll just move on to performance community reports. Tommy, do you have a report for us for the PRC?
So I do not have anything extensive. We did meet a couple weeks ago. Everything is moving along. I think we met our goals. We're in the process, the ones that we were barely off, we have some plans in place to address. And when I say barely off, I mean within a percentage. So I do not have any recommendations to bring to the board. I think Sarah and her team are doing a great job of meeting the goals that we have set forth. Do you guys have any input, Director Smith or Sarah?
The only thing that I wanted to add, Tommy, was specifically, I know that our youth enrollments are down at this time, and we've notably provided information to the PRC that we are going into the schools and providing work readiness. And we've actually got our hiring events scheduled throughout Mojave and La Paz County to meet those for those educational institutions and have additional outreach and marketing that's going into the schools to hope to drive up those numbers.
I would just add, it's nothing per se from this. You heard me say it earlier, and it was discussed and Business Services Coordinator Thornberry shared in that meeting the different things that business services and employment services are doing together. If people aren't aware, I'm going to make you aware right now. And I'll try to say this the most elegantly way I can, nicely. Mojave County is leading the state in regards to so many different categories in jobs and things in AJC. It's really incredible. And they've also been called out on phone calls, meaning that they've asked, how is Mojave County doing what they're doing? When there's two of them, and in some areas they have more than a half a dozen or more, and they're not meeting the same metrics as business services. I think that needs to be just shared with the performance committee and what was shared with the performance committee, their numbers, and make sure the board's aware that business services now is operating on a level that's never been seen before in Mojave County. And I'm appreciative of Mr. Millen's services and Mr. Thornberry's services for doing that and working together. And that's all I would have on that.
I want to second that as well. Jason and Joe, you guys are taking us to levels we've never seen. Appreciate that very much. Okay, with the next three, we kind of already went over. Tammy, you already gave your report. Do you have anything additional there? No? Okay, we'll move on to Amy for Youth Services Standing Committee report.
Sarah, do you want to just give an update on the hiring event so people kind of know what's going on with those? Can you do that?
I will turn that over to I can default to you two. Go.
Madam Chair. So one of the great things when I started business services was that Sarah allowed me to go and meet with all the WAVE, JTED collaboration meetings, the MCC collaboration meetings, the high school collaboration meetings. And what we've been able to do is kind of take a different approach to this as well this time. So we went out and met with all the different school districts and set up job skills readiness over a 5-period training session, culminating in a hiring event a couple weeks before the graduation, which we listened to Director Smith from last year. It seemed like it just wasn't timed correctly. Lauren, Amber, and their team have put together people that are out in the schools already doing this. We have the hiring events already planned for Lake Havasu Parker, Bullhead, and Kingman. So it's all going to culminate. But the thing that we really did differently this year, and it started in Lake Havasu, we just like talking about the businesses have to drive what's going on. The students have to drive what's going on. right? So this time it was, who do you want to see at the hiring event as a student? And then what are your goals and what are your ambitions? So we've been able to, instead of just bringing the normal people that come to hiring events, we're literally going out off a list that's created through Major Clarity. They sent out a survey and they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And who do you want to get hired by when you graduate? And so that's how we're driving that whole system. So we have literally a list of 15 businesses in the Parker Havasu area. We have the goals that the kids want, and that's what we're trying to do to culminate that situation. So the engagement has been fantastic. In certain school districts, they left it up to people that wanted to volunteer. They have QR codes. They just scan and they sign up for one. And even if they miss the first two, but now they want to learn how to do a resume. So the engagement is there. Obviously, we started in 8th grade with the 8th graders going to the high schools and touring. Then we had the great game. I always call it that reality store day. So the engagement with the kids, the new pathways that WAVE is creating, culminating with the college and what can Arizona Work do that someone else isn't already doing? So there's just a ton of collaboration. But again, this year it's student driven versus adults because we all think we know what they should be doing, but they don't think that way yet. So I hope that answers any questions you have.
Perfect, thank you. I will add, Joe brought up pathways. So one of the things, we just had a meeting, I think it was last week, this week, I'm not sure. My time scheme is really off. I'm not sure what I'm doing day to day. But one of our goals now that CTEDs across the state have the opportunity to serve students for that 13th year in in-demand programs is one of the things that we've been working on is how do we get those students to be able to move forward. So medical pathways is a big one because we have so much need there, but a student can't move forward from a nursing assistant if they don't have an academic component. So they can't move forward to be an LPN and an RN if they haven't taken biology and chemistry and some of those courses. And so what we're working on is during the pandemic, schools were able to have a lot more flexibility in things that they do. So one of the things we're working on is the schools allowing students to move forward in the academic path and take some of those courses at the college that they need to continue, say, on their LPN path or their RN path. And that way I can continue to pay through WAVE for those nursing courses, but the school then has the ability they can take a biology at the college instead of the high school, and they don't have to double dip, right? They don't have to take 2 biology classes. That one class at the college can transfer back to the high school. And Arizona at Work has been there as we talk about braiding this funding that Sarah mentioned at another meeting we were at. We're braiding that funding between the school district. The college has opened up their early start scholarship, so they've expanded what they're offering, which is magnificent because we have some students that we're capping out the credits on that early start scholarship. That's their junior, senior, and fall, I think, after graduation. So they've opened that cap up. There's no limit on that. The school districts are able to pay for certain things. WAVE can pay for certain things, and Arizona Work comes in there and can pay for certain things. So we're removing those barriers, and that medical pathways is the first one that we're kind of experimenting with. We talked a little bit about a business pathway. That gets a little more complicated simply because there are terminal degrees at MCC, and then there are continuation degrees to a university. So that gets a little more complicated, but that's kind of what we're working on so that we can serve those students in that 13th year a little more effectively, letting them get started in high school. And we have students that are doing this, but they just don't have the support, right? Because this wasn't a thing. So that's another thing that we recently met on that I think is exciting for our area. But I'll go back to, we've got to have teachers and people be able to offer those courses so that we can get more. One of the things that we're hearing from like Kingman Regional is that the people that maybe are in the RN program are already working at Kingman Regional. So they may take them out of this spot and plug a hole over here, but now they just opened up another hole. So we need to get new people into that pipeline, and to do that, we have to have more capacity. So I think that that's going to be a big thing in our community that we need to work on. But other than that, our goal for the Youth Standing Committee was to connect people. And I think you can hear they're being connected, and that's not by me. I just handed out phone numbers and said, let's meet, and they're able to kind of run with that. The other thing that's nice is our superintendents at those districts are starting to hear more about this, so they're starting to understand more. Education and business don't always intersect where they need to. Education and community services don't always intersect where they need to. And so I think that that's been a benefit of what we've been doing and the staff has been doing. So thanks. Good job.
Thank you. So Tammy, or do you have anything more you want to report on the economic development update?
I do, but do you want to do Gary first? That
Okay.
was on the thing, that was, maybe it's just the other agenda. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, I've actually got a lot. But one of them, I'm really excited to say that Mojave County, out of the top 25 businesses that came into the state last year, Mojave County had 3. We are the only what I consider rural county. We had one other county that brought in 1, and that was Casa Grande. And to me, they're so close to the valley, I don't consider them rural. But other than that, we're the only ones that even made the list. So I was excited. That shows that a lot is happening, as we already know, a lot of new jobs coming in. And that's only 3. That's not counting anything out at the industrial park in Kingman. That's not counting all the different businesses that Lake Havasu and Bullhead and Fort Mojave, all the different things that are coming. That isn't even those. So that was exciting because there's a lot that is happening. What I am seeing though is there is starting to see a slowdown a little bit, which I personally have not done a lot of marketing the last year because we've had so much going on, but it's starting to slow down. I'm not having as many phone calls coming in the last month and a half, 2 months. And that kind of shows where we're at. I need to in fact, I met last Monday. We had a meeting Monday to talk about, out of my department, what we can do to kick up recruitment differently now. Housing, thank goodness we're doing this housing study, but housing is a big issue. We've got these new companies that want to come. We want me to go out and find more companies to come in, but we've got to have the housing to support them because we don't have what we need to help support what's coming as it is already, let alone anything else. In May, and we pushed it back to May because of the spring break coming up. So probably in May is when we're going to start the profit mastery classes. Supervisor Lankenfelter for his district paid for it, but it will include the whole county, the whole area. We're hoping to get about 100 businesses to participate, and that will actually help the businesses to understand their finances and how they need to move forward. So it's a 6-week class online. And then in the process of being part of that, then they'll get not only support from my office, but some support from the SBDC office through MCC as well. And then another thing that we're starting right now is the discussions are starting with our 3 counties. WACOG is already Mojave, La Paz, and Yuma. We did have another organization that was the 3 counties. That's dissolved. We've got the Workforce Development Board, that's the 2 counties. The Arizona Association for Economic Development is wanting us to have our 3 counties put back together. So those discussions are starting. What's that going to look like? And one of the main topics with that is going to be workforce as well as infrastructure. When I talked to Yuma, they said, well, we have to do ag. And I said, you're 1 county. La Paz and Mojave doesn't have ag, so we will discuss it, but what we do has to be something that is over all 3. Transportation, all the same things we're already talking about. What can we do to work together and bring in more resources? So that's one thing that we're doing. Another thing that I've talked to Sarah already, and we don't have a date yet, but to bring in some of these more businesses and find out who they are, we're going to have a business blitz. So as Gina and the people prior to Gina have gone out and met with a lot of businesses within the county, a lot of them don't know who Arizona at Work is. And we've got to get that word out. So we're going to do business blitz where we put some material together, and we've got some things we're in the process of ordering. So we don't have dates yet. But put some some materials together from Arizona at Work, from my department, maybe from the college, whatever we can. And then we're going to go door to door and have blitz where we all go together and knock on doors and get information, get contacts. Then when we have that meeting in May or August or whenever they are, we're going to have more people to contact as well. We're going to have that list that we can start building on. And then for me, from my department, which is going to help just Mojave County, not La Paz. I'm in the process of writing my strategic plan as well as my SEDS, which is a federal document that we submit, which is a comprehensive economic development strategy. And those go hand in hand together, but it gives us a long-term 5-year plan that we're working on. And the other thing I'm working on is I'm still gathering a little bit more data before I take it to the Board of Supervisors for support and to get someone to help us walk through it. But we want to get Mojave County, the whole county, to be put in a foreign trade zone. And what that is going to do is help us to move inventory inside and outside of the country easier. So who is bringing in, importing, and who is exporting. But once we have a foreign trade zone here, then all of a sudden things are going to start growing a lot more in the county. And so that's what we're looking and working on right now. I've had 3 or 4 different companies reach out to me and say that they would be willing to help put that plan together. So when that time comes, we'll take it to the board. It'll be a little pricey, but in the long run, it'll be worth it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's all you do? What do you do with the rest of your days? Thank you, Tammy, very much. How about you, Gary? Do you have an update?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. First of all, I want to comment on that profit mastery. We did that with the college about 7 years ago, and in Lake Havasu, and it's a terrific course. I can't say enough good things. Everybody that participated in that came out, and it changed their businesses. So that's one I certainly, and also I know Tammy's aware of it. We did a white paper on the foreign trade zone a couple of years ago, looking at it for the park in Kingman specifically. So when it's time, we certainly have that background information there. At the Kingman Industrial Park, FedEx now is up and running. That's a 200,000 square foot FedEx ground facility. We continue to work on the land release at the airport. This is the additional 1,800 acres. But we've cut that down. The FAA can't seem to get their hands or arms wrapped around a release of this size. They've never seen it. So we're probably going to do in the 400 to 600 acre increment. And then we also have to do it with the Rancho Santa Fe access that comes off of the interstate there into the park. That is a whole other process that we have to go through and are going through with the FAA at this point. As you guys have heard, the Advanced Manufacturing Center for MCC is moving forward. They have instigated a purchase of property at the industrial park in Kingman, which I think is a fitting place for it to be. So that is currently in front of the FAA for final approval. We have a new website for choosekingman.com, and we just found out we were ranked number 4 by the Golden Shovel that rates websites as number 4 in the nation. So considering we were up against some pretty stiff competition, I thought that was quite an accomplishment. We just completed a expansion and retention survey. I noted earlier at the airport. We also completed a fiscal impact, and that really was to bring to everybody's attention the kind of impact that industrial park has. And just briefly, there's some 82 businesses. They support some 2,700 employees, which in turn support 3,600 jobs. And their overall financial impact is $751 million. So it just tells you how the money magnifies from what just happens at the park. One of the things we've done is we just finalized a interactive map in Kingman for commercial property that's available for on the retail side. So that's again is available on our website. And our tourism people have been working with the Arizona Film Ready group out of the ACA and Kingman Office Tourism. We've committed to become an Arizona Film and Digital Film Ready community sponsor. So Josh Noble will be leading that effort, but we will be the contact for those things to happen, certainly in Kingman. Currently at the business park, about 5 different projects are underway. They're either different phases of due diligence with the companies and or getting ready for land purchases. We had implemented a couple of years ago a facade improvement program. We now move that from economic development to our grants coordinator. And so that's a program where small businesses apply for this grant to improve the front of their business. And I think it's really been good for Kingman. We just put a new software in called Blue Dot, which helps us track projects and everything else, that all the inputs there for us to look at. So those are really some of the key things that have been going on in our area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to the WIOA One Stop Partners report, starting with the current priority list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So most of my report will actually go to those three individuals who are literally keeping me standing every day. For us right now with Title B, my current priority list is actually very specific into hiring for Quest Dislocated Worker Grant. We do have quite a bit of applicants for the Mojave spot. So anyone from Parker, La Paz area, if you would like that job listing, I will send it to you. Send your people our way. We would love to get some individuals in there that are going to be able to go out into the community, market this grant, and learn very quickly and efficiently and just hit the ground running. So if you know of any tenacious people, please send them my way. We will be training in our Lake Havasu and Parker office kind of back and forth, and then getting them situated at the Arizona Western College campus, or those who will be hired for Mojave, they will be housed at Mojave Community College campus, and kind of rotating within those campuses. So that's all I have for my current priority list. Okay. Hire people.
Moving on to Title 1B programs, adult dislocated worker, youth and business services.
Princess. So Lauren and I created a small slideshow. We wanted to capture everything, but then we'd be here for like a whole week. So we kind of put everything in like a little nutshell and do like a little overview. Yep, next slide.
Whoa.
Oh,
try that again.
Turbo.
So we started out with success stories. Our first one is Donald. Was a veteran referred for services through Arizona at Work program with multiple barriers limiting him from gaining employment. Donald's initial reports to staff were that he did not trust that he would be supported and receive aid in meeting his employment goals, because he had received this form of feedback from other agencies and was accustomed to being let down. He came into Mojave La Paz Title 1B adult program with an expired CDL license due to medical limitations prompting him from completing a Department of Transportation physical requirement. He was adamant that he was not wanting to pursue any employment related to his previous occupation, knowledge, or utilizing the industry certificate. It's very small. Can you guys see that?
No.
Still too small.
Okay. He had not had a cell phone in over 2 years, was experienced behavioral health disparities, at risk of losing his housing, and had very limited basic needs. Initial engagement with Donald had to occur through email only due to his limitations, which was one of the first barriers to be addressed, increasing communications and establishing trust in service provision. Donald's initial appointment required over 6 hours with his career coach to address major barriers, establish a career path, and build rapport. As career counseling began and rapport continued with Donald, he shared of a traumatic occurrence in his previous profession as an over-the-road truck driver, where an individual had recklessly veered into his truck, causing an accident, and subsequently that individual had lost their life. Since this occurrence, Donald had refused to return to his occupation, was desperately in need of resources and a new career path. Donald was placed in a work experience to begin his reestablish a schedule and work-related responsibilities. While on this work experience and completing general maintenance, he was approached by a supervisor who inquired if Donald could begin recertifying his CDL to operate their water truck. After some consideration, he was obligated to do so and began increasing his tasks and skills on his WEX. Closing in on the 30 days of Donald's WEX, he began having discussions with his career coach, expressing interest in finding employment, doing similar work with his reestablished CDL license. Through job search assistance and impressive recommendation from his WEC supervisor, and supported from his career coach, Donald was able to secure employment. He now has a career with Public Works Road Division as a heavy equipment driver, utilizing his reestablished CDL, and he enjoys his job and has been one of our most successful participants.
So with that, from our youth program, we were looking for youth that had finished their beginning program goals, and then the secondary launch to what they were doing was higher than what they had come into with initially. Caden Mann, he came to our program at 16 years old with the interest of, I want to finish my high school education and I want employment, but I'm really not sure what I want to do right now, that's what we do. I want a job, but I'm not sure where we want to be with my, where I want to be down the road. So over time, he had completed his GED with our career coaches in our Kingman office. And throughout that time, they did various assessments with him to find out what kind of interest this young man had. At 16, you have the world at your fingertips. You can do and be whatever you want. And through different assessments, we found out that he was interested in electrical work. Our career coach that he was working with in Kingman jumped on board with business services with Joe, and they got him an on-the-job training through Walker Electric. Now, keep in mind, this young man is 16, so he is very young. By the time he is finished with his on-the-job training through various other options, he's going to be rather young if he jumps into the apprenticeship program and is registered. So he, compared to what you would think of most 16-year-olds, he's already got a plan in place for himself. He's going to be well established as he moves through his life. It was just one of the most surprising and very fulfilling things to hear that is happening with our youth in the county.
All right, so we did a cohort with Walletta, which is Western Arizona Law Enforcement Training Academy. This was class 31. They started in July of 22 and they completed this past December. So WIOA did assist a total of 12 police cadets through the training. The individuals who went through the training are now gainfully employed, earning wages that lead to economic self-sufficiency. Class 32 is in motion as of 123.
With Phoenix Truck Driving, we recently finished the remote training through Bullhead's campus. We had 4 people complete successfully. They all walked away with their CDL. Some had employment the moment it finished, and then others we are currently working on ensuring that they are getting that warm handoff with employers to utilize that CDL. What happened in Bullhead was fantastic, and this wasn't even finished yet, and we were, where are we going to go next? Where's Lake Havasu? Where's Parker? So the moment it started, it pulled a chain reaction of other great things that are going to be coming down.
Our CVH phlebotomy will begin on February 3rd with 5 WIOA participants. This is a 2-week certification, certified nursing assistants, tentative date within La Paz County for February. We are currently working with 4 WIOA participants for this program.
And then our last one we have is for LETA through Arizona Western College in the Yuma area. Class 49 had started in the fall in October with graduation set for this coming month. We have a total of 5 cadets that we have assisted in multiple fashions for them to complete the training. So we look forward to going to Yuma to watch that graduation and congratulate those cadets on completing, with a planned date for the next one to start in April. Business services.
So as I sat here today, I realized that I'd gotten Rachel all the backup for the PRC, but I didn't get it for this meeting, so I apologize for that right off the bat. Luckily, I have a summary in front of me along with some backup data if anybody would like to see it. So first of all, I just want to say, coming into being the chair for several years and always expecting a lot out of business services. Now that I'm in that position, I expect you to stretch me. But like I said earlier, Sarah has really given me the tools to be able to be involved in everything, even some of the things I thought business services probably didn't have business in, but it turns out that it was good, because as I understand how all the other areas work, it helps me be better at my job. So just an overview for the last 3 months since the board meeting, business services. And when I say business services, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Jason and I with the support of all the staff, because these aren't my numbers. These are our numbers, because we're all working together to produce these numbers. We had in the last quarter of last year, we had 222 direct employer contacts. That was 118 in person, 12 by phone, 82 by email, and 10 Zoom meetings. We had 938 unique employer engagements in conjunction together, and those are all documented in AJC. So I'm not just saying we talked to somebody, it's there, so we have an outcome. 298 new jobs posted in AJC between Jason and I in one quarter. And as director talked about earlier, preparing for the Quest grant, I gathered some information, which I have here, and I'll go through real quickly for you guys. We have to be able to measure so that we know how to improve. Not only that, but we have to be able to be in AJC, the record for the state, so that anybody can see what we're doing. We were kind of blown away when we pulled the numbers. We pulled it in two areas, AJC contacts and then job postings. And what we found out was that Mojave La Paz, like the director said, by far leading the state. And I'll give you a few examples of that. Next big thing I want to talk about is WEXs and OJTs. And everybody on our staff laughs because they see Joe walking around with this spreadsheet all the time. So what the spreadsheet represents, we went to each and every caseworker and we said, who do you have ready today to go to work? And we created a spreadsheet. We started off with about 60. It's now down to 42. These are people ready to go to work today. As you can see from a distance, if they're yellow, the contract's being worked on right now. If they're green, they're already up and running. And if they're white, we've identified where they're going, and it's just a matter of getting that contract in place. So as of today, we have 12 current WEX contracts in place, 14 OJT contracts in place, 15 WEX participants ready to start, and 4 OJTs ready to start, for a total of 42. So we'll have 42 WEX OJTs done in the next week or so. So that's really where the rubber meets the road, is those people are out there and they're getting employment, and they're getting the skills leading to employment. Organized cohorts, we talked about a little bit today. Certified nursing assistant, Kingman Bullhead, welding, Kingman Bullhead, Lake Havasu, custom job skills training and leadership training, Kingman and Bullhead and Havasu. Dispatcher training, we're working on them for all areas. Career fairs that we've had since we've last met, Jason and I were part of, as well as the team. The Crushed event on October 11th, there was over 50 employers and 600 students that participated. On October 18th, we had a hiring event for 210 jobs at the Aquarius. 90% of those job seekers were Arizona residents. 210 job seekers in 3 hours, 66 of them walked out of that room with a job. Bighorn Trek in Kingman, 25 employers, 225 students. November 4th, we had an event with Phoenix Truck Driving, 4 employers and 50 job seekers. And then we also gathered, I believe, a dozen or so new participants are going to need help there. So that was great. Sarah and I and a few people from the team attended a KRMC professional development event on January 19th. At that event, the first 2 hours were for internal employees trying to upskill. And then it's just exactly what Amy was talking about earlier. As we take that EVS staff and move them into CNA, we now bring a WEX in to fill that EVS spot. So we're not creating a vacuum, but we're creating an opportunity for 2 people instead of 1. Upcoming hiring events, February 1st, Bullhead City Laughlin, booked out. February 2nd, Kingman, we have 22 employers engaged. February 8th in Lake Havasu, we have 8 employers because we have a smaller venue there. We talked about earlier, the Phoenix Truck Driving open houses for Kingman, Bullhead, and Havasu. It will all happen in the next 60 days. And then the high school events, we have February for Lake Havasu, March for Bullhead, and April for Kingman, all planned. And I don't know if everyone knows, but Phoenix Truck Driving now going into their 3rd year in this area. They've now graduated over 500.
Wow.
500. out of the Kingman campus.
That's a huge difference from the 11 a year that they were doing before, that the college was doing before that.
97% graduation rate, 93% placement rate. So, I mean, I'm just so proud of being involved with them. Like I said, I was able to meet with the dean here at Bullhead yesterday. Phoenix Truck Driving now has carte blanche. Have as many classes as you want. You got your spaces dedicated. Here's a classroom for you. So we've got some planning coming up for 2 more events in Bullhead. We've established the Lake Havasu site, and I just heard actually from Phoenix Truck Driving late last night that they have a 60-day launch date for Lake Havasu. So we'll be able to pop off there. Just real quick, I wanted to show you, I know we've all been here a long time today. You know, some of the data that was shared for the Quest grant. The labor force in Mojave County is currently at 89,781 out of 320,000. And our labor participation rate is 45.6%. State's about 67% right now. And we know those people aren't all just not working, right? They're Uber drivers, they're construction, they're 1099 employees. But even if you add all those in, it's still a small number. So this was the breakdown Director was talking about earlier. So the last quarter of last year, the state of Arizona, all the business services folks, there's 91 offices total and 50 employees that cover that area. Jobs posted in the state, 1,727 during that time for the state. Mojave La Paz, 297 of those for a total of 17.2%. So Mojave La Paz had 17% or 99 postings per person. That's Jason, myself, and Ken Hewitt. As opposed to, if we look at City of Phoenix, during the same period, they have more employees, of course. They posted 102 jobs versus our 297 in the same period. So we are trying to reach the businesses. We are trying to give them the support they need. And, you know, that's where we're doing those convenings every day, right? As we're talking to them, we're introducing one at a time to the program and what that looks like. And then we have the contact tracking as well. So this is every time Jason and I meet with a customer. It could be a consultation. It could be a job posting. It could be a site visit. It could be a lot of different things. And every time we do that, we're going in and documenting that. So again, statewide, 4,770 during that last quarter of last year. Of that, Mojave County, Mojave La Paz, 952 out of the 4,770. And that put us at 19.9%, almost 20% of the state contact tracking was done in Mojave La Paz. And basically it's 317% of what we should have done for the amount of people that we had. So that's what business services is doing. You know, we're looking at it from the employer. How do we meet the employer needs? Come back to Sarah and her team. She every time gets what we need, gets the connections made. Students, going out to the students, what do you want? What's realistic, obviously, and then working backwards from there. So I appreciate it if anybody has any questions.
I don't have any questions. I have a comment. Between the three of you and Tammy, I don't know what you guys do all day. And Jason, Lord, I'm very impressed. You guys, what great reports, what great numbers. You guys are doing it. It's great. Absolutely.
We're tired.
You can have the rest of the afternoon.
I'll authorize that. For him, he won't do it.
You're wearing me out just talking about it.
I have too much to do.
So Madam Chair, I have a question actually for business services, or actually I'm addressed to the Workforce Development Manager. Do we have an apprentice?
We are working with the State Apprenticeship Office and we currently are registering our OJT with Service General, and he will be our ongoing registered apprentice for HVACR. And we are looking to roll out another one in the next 2 weeks, who will start as a pre-apprenticeship with HVACR. He's a 17-year-old, and then we'll roll him into an apprenticeship. So by the time he is 21-ish, he'll be able to open his own business. He'll be completely certified if he follows through with it. So it has been a long road for apprenticeship. at a national conference, I was speaking to someone who has gone through this process of what it takes to get the business engagement and the education component and everything tied together. And although it seems like it's a cork board with a bunch of different pictures and things kind of all over the place, they made it seem very simplistic. But even with that understanding and their partnership with an employer, it took them 4 years to get off the ground to do that. So we're extremely excited and really honored that our employers have come to us and said, we've got the groundwork, we have everything we need, just launch it. And so we are.
So Madam Chair, the reason I want to recognize that is for two things. A, the apprenticeship program model, and when that's put in place, the outcomes are incredible, which we know. And then not only that, but really the success. And I want to highlight Sarah's department again for what they're doing and really taking it to the next level and really encourage them to take this opportunity of a first apprentice and make it not one, but two, and make sure that if there's an opportunity to do a photo op, we got to tell our story. I tell you guys it all the time, right? If you don't tell the story, nobody knows. You got to tell the story. So, if there's opportunities, maybe it'd be a great opportunity to have you reach out to Roger Galloway. We'll do a story on you with the apprenticeship program and how that came about. I really think that needs to be told in our community for twofold. For for you guys to be recognized for the things you do, but secondly, for our other business community members to know that this opportunity exists because the outcomes are so strong and why it's so important. And I'll conclude with that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, it's Mark Oleman. I just had a question. On the list of all the upcoming events, I was just looking at the workforce development website, and I really don't see any of those things listed on the calendars and all that. Is there another place for it to find those things?
Madam Chair. Yeah, that's a great idea because we haven't been posting those just internally and to the folks, but we certainly could, get with our great web developer there and make sure that we have all those events listed for the community as well.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and if there's any way to share that list with us, that'd be great. I definitely want to get my recruiting team as part of all that.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair. So also, Mark, just to circle back on that question so the board knows as well, is that's really one of the responsibilities of the one-stop operator. So as soon as we get that person on board, not making any excuses, our other one-stop operator currently jumped ship and created one of the best business sectors that we could have. But to that point, just so that you're aware, those things will be coming when we get the one-stop operator within the next month.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And not knocking on anybody's hard work at all. I think everything that you guys said you've been doing is great and fabulous. I was just staring right at it and I go, how can I get my recruiters into that? So that's all. Thank you very much. I agree.
Tell the story.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Move on to Title II, Adult Education and Literacy.
He has left. He had another meeting to attend to.
So we have no report there. How about Title III, Wagner Pizer Programs, Employment Services and Veteran Services, Mr. Deemer?
Yeah, so I'll give my BSR a little time to speak also because we're done depth. But the partnership between the Title I and DES Business Service Team, it has really set a precedence in the state to the point where one of my other workforce areas that I'm over is now they have been coming down and shadowing and working with this team to help try to do the exact same thing in another workforce development area up here in the northern part of the state. So this team has really set a precedence with Joe and Jason and Sarah. They really helped do something that we haven't been able to do in a lot of areas of the state. And because of that, we've been able to bring in other parts of the state to follow and work with them to try to do the same thing in other parts. So I want to say thank you to this team for doing a great job on that. And Jason, I'll let you have a quick moment to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to also throw out there, just so the board's aware, months ago, me and Joe started a monthly meeting for all business services, for all the core partners, similar to what I did as a one-stop operator, but more on the business services side. So we could work out different things in here from different frontline staff all at once, kind of, you know, again, breaking through those silos. Within that, one of the very first meetings we decided is if you go on to Arizona Job Connection right now, you will actually see OJT and WEX positions posted. Now, it's been a weird road and we've had some issues with them, with people doing self-referrals and stuff. We've had to modify some of that. But the reason why, as you're going on there now and seeing those positions on there, is because we are actually going back into Arizona Job Connection. We are making the referral from that client and then doing that placement, closing out that job in there. That way we are tracking those OJT and WEX positions on that state level as well, which that is now starting to be copied across the entire state. It's not to inflate numbers, but it's to show what we're already doing. You know, and it was something that really wasn't tracked. And me and Joe kind of sat there that day and said, why aren't we tracking this? Or where do we track this at? You know, and if we're putting all this work into it, we need to be able to show that we did it. Again, I thank the entire board for my partner and Joe. I mean, of course, anytime the board needs anything from me as the state BSR, please let me know. I'm happy to go above and beyond with Joe at all times. I, made Joe a promise that, give us a year and we'd be on top of the state. I think we did it in 6 months. So I can't see what another 6 months is going to do for us. And I can't wait to just do more, really. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. And we don't have, we have on the phone?
We don't have.
No. Okay, so that moves us to the Workforce Development Board announcements. At this time, any Workforce Development Board member who wishes to share information can come forward with their announcements. Okay, I have just a little announcement for Allo Communication. We are now set to go live in Kingman on March 31st. Woo! So yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of opportunities come up. We're going to be hiring about 70 installers between Kingman and Lake Havasu. Our store is supposed to open also on March 31st at the old Sears building over there by the old Safeway, about 6 doors down from Optimum. So just in case you were wondering where we're located, that's where we're at. We're going to be at. And yeah, we're moving forward. We got it going on. We're going to do a lot of good things. So you'll be seeing us a lot more coming up. Any other announcements? Okay, at this time, call the public. This is a public meeting. So if anybody on the phones or in the room who would like to speak, this is your time to do it. Okay, hearing none. No other topics needing to discuss, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you.